Hello and welcome back to the Anywhere But Here podcast, episode 293. My name's Ant. As you can tell from this intro, Tom's not with us. We aren't recording a new episode this fortnight for various reasons. We may discuss it next recording, but for now, you're left with just me in this intro. You can support us by going to abhpod.com, where somewhere on that page there is an Amazon banner. If you click that Amazon banner, you will be able to go to Amazon, do your shopping. It doesn't change your experience at all. It doesn't cost any more. All it means is that we just get a little kickback from your purchases, and it helps to keep us on the air. If you don't have any shopping to do on Amazon, you can... in the same location as that banner, there should be a Patreon banner. You can click through and you can choose to support us for as little as $1 a month, I believe. There's various currencies, but either way, you can support us for as little as that or as much as you want. You can change the pledge if you want to. It is a monthly donation. For that, you will get this main episode without this intro. You'll get exclusive after the podcast that we record just for the patrons. We also do Spoilercasts every so often, and you will get those the week we record them, and you won't have to wait until we have a break like today to put them out. And all of those audio bits are delivered via an RSS feed that you put into your podcast app, and it will download all of the audio stuff automatically for you. Occasionally we will also record YouTube videos, maybe gameplays, maybe reactions to things, and we'll put those up on YouTube, and our patrons will get the link earlier than they go on general release to everyone else. They're just little benefits, so it's sort of like you give us money to keep us on the air, we give you a little bit of extra content. That's our preferred way of doing it, because there's a little bit of give and take there. You can get in touch with us via all the usual social media. You can get to us on Twitter at ABH Pod. You can go to facebook.com/ABH Pod or search for Anywhere But Here Podcast, and we will come up on Facebook. Go give us a follow, interact with us that way. You can also email us, abhpod@gmail.com, and we will occasionally respond to you. We're a bit useless at responding, but we will try. You can also interact with us on Patreon if you're a patron of ours, and we will reply to you that way as well. As I alluded to just a little bit ago, this is a spoilercast that Tom and I recorded with our good friend Andrew. We actually recorded 2 spoilercasts, because this is our WandaVision spoilercast, where in the first half we go over episodes 1 to 5, and the second part we go through 6 to 9. You may have also noticed this episode's longer than usual, as a result of being 2 spoilercasts spliced into one, and so it stands over 3 hours long. So it's a bit of a task to listen to it, but I think it's worth it. Also, as Falcon and the Winter Soldier has come to an end this week, it seems only fitting that we release this now. We usually release our spoilercast when the DVD or Blu-ray comes out, but let's just get on with it. Enjoy. As indicated by the title of this episode, this is a spoiler cast for the first 5 episodes of Marvel's WandaVision that is on Disney Plus. And we are joined again by Andrew. This is becoming a regular thing.
Hello,
and we're loving it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think anything geeky film sort of related spoiler casting, I think Andrew is the man, because he takes notes and pays attention to stuff, whereas I don't. So he's a good person for Tom to bounce things off of. Well, I sit here and get stuff horribly wrong all the time.
Oh, bless. I want to at least appear like I know what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
I think we did a pretty good job spending 2 hours doing that with Soul. I'm listening to that. I'm like, I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But yeah, so WandaVision, sort of been in the works for years, hasn't it? And there's been theories and stuff scattered about the internet all over the place. But I went into, I mean, let's straight off the bat, before any spoiler cast, are you guys enjoying it?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, massively so, right?
Yeah.
I was a little bit, they dropped 2 episodes at once, first off.
Which was the right choice.
I could see why.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the first one, I was like,
what is this?
And then the second one, you're like, there's a little bit more intrigue. But I still, at the end of the second one, I was like, this had better go somewhere.
But it was enough.
Yeah.
I think the second episode.
I mean, the whole Marvel method anyway is that, like, after 15 years, they've got me.
Yeah.
And they know that I'm going to sit through it because they know how long it'll take before they can chuck something in where you go,
mm-hmm. Oh, and there's been plenty of those.
There's been a couple of those. Yeah. Since the end of episode 3, basically. But it's been really good fun. And I'm glad that I stuck with it.
Yeah, for sure. Because when we sat to watch the first 2 episodes, Liz and myself, at the end of the first one, I was more like I was kind of still not sure what it is, but I know Marvel. I know there's a point to this. I fully expected it to be weird because we all knew that it looked sitcom-y. We all knew that it would be sort of going through time, like sitcoms throughout time, because that's what the trailers indicated, something like that. Other than that, I had no idea what it was about. I had no idea why it was sitcom-y or what they were doing. I had no idea if it was going to be sitting in the MCU or if it was going to be like a separate thing. Like, I didn't know how it was going to fit in. Liz really wasn't sold by the first episode, but we still watched the second one anyway. And yeah, like you said, Tom, it made us go, there's something going on, but what is it? So yeah, I think they had to drop the 2 together, otherwise nobody would have come back for the second week.
Yeah,
at all.
Yeah, I mean, like Ant, like I didn't know what to expect from it, and I was thinking about it a little bit ago before we came on here, and the way that Marvel has done things, like Tom, you were saying they've been at this for like 15 years, and the way that the Marvel universe is now is that in order to know what the next thing is, you have to know what the now thing is. You have to know what's going on now. It's so steeped in that story where it's like, well, why do you care about these characters? And even to the point where, and I'm sure we'll get into it, like there are little nods and characters who come back that, just things where it's like, if you know, and you're just like, and, but I,
sure.
I went into the show just, I was like, okay, I like Paul Bettany. He's great. I mean, I've like the first time I ever saw him was in A Knight's Tale, and he was Chaucer, and he was great. And that's just a fun movie anyway. But the range of, because in the Marvel films, he's supposed to be this stoic android who ends up with feelings for Wanda, and you see that. But in this series, you get to see him be funny, and you get to see him emote, and you get to see him do all this stuff. So I'm enjoying that. But also, like, I appreciate Marvel. I'm more of a DC guy, but so I know nothing going into any kind of like, okay, what story are they pulling from the entire Marvel mythos? And my thing was just going into it. One, like I like the play on the sitcoms from the first or the last 5 or 6 decades, and because those are the kind of shows that I watched. I would stay up and watch Nick at Night and watch Dick Van Dyke, or would watch reruns of Family Ties, and other types of sitcoms that are being spoofed in this show. And so it's really interesting to see how they do all the different techniques of, like, in the 50s episode, Wanda's waving the plates around and everything, and it's like it looks like how they would have presented it back then. So all that, and then plus one of the things I really enjoy about like the series and what we've seen in promos is, in the films they had to kind of goose up the outfits. You read a comic book, and it's like in the first X-Men movie when they're all in the black suits, and and Wolverine's just like, oh, so this is it, this is the outfit, and then Cyclops like, well, what did you expect? Yellow leather, like yellow spandex. And what I love about what we've seen so far is that they've been able to kind of go into, and it looks like they're going to touch on different versions of the characters while also being within like the theme and the context of it. So even without that, yes, I've got the last some odd years of knowing Wanda and knowing the Vision story and appreciating all that. Like, those first 2 episodes coming out was a good idea, just to kind of like lay down, okay, this is going to be weird, but there's a point to it. But also it's just, I appreciate the technical aspect. I appreciate, the two of them interacting in a different way than what we've seen in the films, and they're more front and center as opposed to like, oh, hey, we're having a romantic evening in wherever, and then look, here's Captain America. All right, come on, take the center stage.
Yeah, it has been good. I mean, you say it looks like they're going to touch on some different versions of the characters. There have been promo shots. We haven't seen it yet where they're in the
Classic
Scarlet Witch and the Green Vision outfit, aren't they?
Looks like it's going to be like a Halloween episode or something.
Halloween party or something. Yeah. There's the thing that's really interesting. You touch on the sitcom aspect of things, and actually in that conversation, you're mentioning things that we know are like staples of the American diet growing up, like kids, like those 2 sitcoms I've never seen. Like Family Ties and Dick Van Dyke Show, possibly I might have seen actually, because I liked a bit of Dick Van Dyke. I had to finish that sentence fully. But I remember watching shows like I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched, a more my American sitcom
same here
sort of thing that I can pull from. Possibly a Golden Girls once or twice, but like, so I feel that where it goes back to like Lucy and things like that, that's sort of lost on us, but we can appreciate it because we've seen Bewitched and
they literally rip off the Bewitched opening. The opening of the second episode, don't they? Like the cartoon kind of
didn't they
riding on a broomstick kind of thing?
Didn't they do a I can't remember what the show's called now. The one with the square boxes, the families. What's it like that sitcom called?
Oh, Brady Bunch.
Yeah. Did they do a Brady Bunch opening as well? So something
similar? It was I think the 70s version. I think that was supposed to be like a take on the Brady Bunch without going to here's the story. Same Wanda.
Interestingly, I haven't noticed it before, but the last episode, episode 5 opening, that was those 2 singing the opening, wasn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it was those 2 singing the theme tune, because that sort of harkens back to where you get the actors singing the theme tune and stuff. I'm pretty sure it was those 2 because it was a bit like they got most of the notes.
Like, when the lyrics like, oh, we don't even know what we're singing about, but we're just making it up, but we love each other. And I mean,
I love all the little openings are brilliant.
What I find interesting about what Andrew was saying about you get to see more of Vision and like he's a bit more kind of fully rounded as a character. There was part of me that was like, but that's because he's not real.
That's what I was, as you were saying that in my head, I was thinking, oh, but hang on a second.
However, it turns out it might actually be the real Vision because she's stolen his body from a facility and she might have been able to reanimate him.
With her power, she might have been able to bring him back to life. And
because the thing is, like, we thought it was, I think the original idea we thought was like a construct where she'd completely trapped herself in a little kind of bubble and she's just imagining this life. But actually...
They did touch on that on episode 5, didn't they? On the latest episode, whether it was all a construct or was it actually...
Because we were supposed to do this a couple of weeks ago after the last episode that Andrew was on. And I'm actually quite glad that we're doing it now.
Oh, yeah.
Because at that point was the end of episode 3 where you got Rambo was...
she'd just been expelled from
she'd just been kind of
from Westview,
spat out. And then you kind of got the camera panning up and just about across, and you could see some structures and spotlights, but that was it. It cut off there. And that was the point at which I was like, right, okay, I'm totally in now. I want to know exactly what all that is about. And I think the conversation this time around is going to be totally different from the one
what it would have been
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, because at the end of episode 3, where you saw all of that, and it sort of brought back images of Thor, where they built all that thing around his hammer.
True. Around
So I was thinking, okay, so because it looked like when Rambo was expelled from it and like people pointing guns at her and stuff like that, it was like, okay, so now this group of military type people, have they trapped Wanda in there and they've created this and they're trapping her? Because you've got those radio messages on like, who's doing this to you, what's happening and stuff like that. Or like, because that's where my mind was, that actually maybe she's not doing this, maybe someone's doing it to her. That's where I was at that point. Like, I wasn't entirely sure what was going on, because she was becoming aware of certain things, wasn't she?
Yeah, like there was the helicopter, the little toy helicopter that crashed. There was the beekeeper. But then you find out, it's totally different from what you imagined. Going back to the very first thing that she says as well in the first episode, like Vision walks through the door and a plate smashes against his head.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, and her first words are, "Oh, my husband and his indestructible head," and it made me feel sad. Because it was clearly her being like, he's got an indestructible head.
Yes. It's sort of like a tongue-in-cheek thing to like, not really. Like all those little nods and things to stuff that's happened elsewhere. It's been great. Like when you hear something, you're like, I know what you're talking about. Like it's.
But it's all the stuff about like him going to work and not having a clue what his job is and what the company he works for does, because there isn't really a company and it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah.
It's just a place for him to go while she needs.
You just have to analyze the numbers. That's what we do. We analyze the numbers. But what do those numbers actually represent? Figures. And
the other thing that I wanted to talk about 2 weeks ago was the fact that there's a laughter track on the episodes, but the laughter track occurs in places that aren't funny. And I wasn't sure if that was like a stylistic thing, because that's what happened in the original kind of sitcoms. Because I know that laughter tracks are put in to try and make things seem funny, but it seemed to be almost laughing in places where things definitely weren't funny and were actually a little bit dark. And it kind of emphasized the darkness and the weirdness and the not quite knowing what was going on kind of thing.
Well, knowing what we know now, with everything and the idea of the laugh track, because like I've gotten to the point now in the stuff that I've watched, like I know when things are funny, so you don't have to like prompt me on please laugh. But like reruns of Friends play at work all the time. Like TBS just plays it all the time. And so I'll walk into work and it's just constant. Like someone will say something, another person will say another thing, and then bing, bang, boom. And then, it's like, oh, okay, this is where you're supposed to laugh. In context of WandaVision, I think it's, with Wanda not wanting to break the reality that's being created. It's like, oh, this is supposed to be funny. This is supposed to be fun. Uh-oh, something serious is happening, but don't pay attention to this. Instead, like, oh, you're supposed to be laughing. So this is supposed to be fun, happy, fun times. Like, let's, and I think it's kind of we still don't know a lot of what's going on. We've just been getting glimpses of, okay, there are things being, in her control, but what's really happening and how is it that she's able to, and so it's like her trying to keep grasps of, no, this is getting too real.
Yeah, she's trying to rein it all in, isn't she? Yeah.
Or misdirection almost, like, oh, this is funny.
But to your point, Tom, it does further drive home where it's like, this is not this isn't funny. Like, this is what the hell's happening? It's like, it just reminds me of, I remember seeing the Truman Show in the theater, and there's the scene where he becomes aware when he and I think it's Laura Linney, who plays his wife. He's like, let's get out of town, and they're driving to the state line, and there are like these guys in hazmat suits, and they're like, well, you can't come out here, this is the only road out. Oh, sorry. And then the guy in the hazmat suit says, you're welcome, Truman. And that's when he's just like, Truman, and then he jumps out of the car and starts running. Well, there's this whole bit where he's running through the woods and the people in the hazmat suits are chasing him down. And I just remember it's one of those things where I was mortified. Like, here's this man who's his entire life, he's been on this camera. He doesn't know it, and he's scared. Yeah. And he's being chased by these guys. He doesn't know what the hell's happening. And I remember in the movie theater, like, a couple people laughing. And I'm like, why are you laughing? This is a horror film. I mean, essentially. And so WandaVision doing that, it's like, you know, if you imagine that it is recorded in front of a studio audience, it's like, why are they laughing? It's just like, what am I missing something? Or are
I suppose
a lot darker
to a point. I suppose it's perhaps it is, like, because it makes you, when they laugh, it makes you think, why are they laughing? I think it's probably like a device to make you think something is off. Like, it sort of brings you to that something's off here. What is, like, why are they laughing? And I think, and it's a very good point that she's possibly using it as a, hey, it is funny. Like, look over here, look over here.
Look over here. Don't concentrate on this thing over here. Look over here.
Yeah.
Because I think the first time I really kind of got a bit, like, weirded out by it was the dinner table scene where the boss is choking and the woman's like, his wife is like, stop it.
Yeah,
and, like,
it's creepy.
But there was laughter in the background as well. And like, it was at that point that I was like, no, there's something coded in here somewhere, you know. But the second episode I thought was good for kind of showcasing Paul Bettany's comedy. With the chewing gum drunken antics.
Gummed up his inners. That was so good. And the whole magic show bit where he's drunk on chewing gum and Wanda sort of covering it up by doing other, like, it was really, really clever the way they did that. But Paul Bettany was he's just so good, like, showing how diverse of an actor he is in this show. Like, he's been through all of the emotions, like, in the five episodes, hasn't he? Like,
he really has.
And, like, you really feel for him. Like, obviously you feel for Wanda because of what's driving her to this, but, like, you feel for Vision as well because, like, he's this super intelligent person, and like, at this point now, he just wants to know what's going on because something isn't right. He feels wrong, and, like,
well, that was it. I think I messaged you guys at the end of episode 4, and was like, "There's this whole thing where, like, things are going a bit weird, like the beekeeper coming up at the end of episode 2, and she's like, no, and reverses it, so they're back inside again." And Vision doesn't, like, Vision resets as well. But at the end of episode 4, he didn't reset. Like, she didn't cut back to a previous point, and you could see in his eyes when they sat down to watch the TV at the end, he almost looks dead into the camera and is like, you know,
that's a good point, because she doesn't rewind because the focus of the show at the time is outside with Vision talking to the neighbors, where the neighbors cut through the wall.
Yeah, with the hedge trimmers.
Which was weird. So the focus is out there. It's not inside where she dispels. What was her name at the time?
Geraldine.
Geraldine, where she sort of throws Geraldine out.
Who is Monica Rambeau, who is the daughter of the woman from
Captain Trouble.
Captain Marvel.
Captain Trouble, that's
it. So it's that So because she doesn't reset it because the focus is outside, so she just repairs the wall and Vision comes in to where is she? Where's she gone? Like, she had to leave.
She had to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. So was it at the beginning of episode 4 where Rambo comes back, wasn't it?
Well, she was in the second episode she was in the park.
It's the part where she is Rambo herself. Yeah. So where it jumps back in time to just
come back from the blip. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was that point, like, because there you had as she was coming back, all of the audio playing and it was going and Liz was just like, did you say Captain Trouble? Isn't that from Captain Marvel? And I was like, I didn't hear it. So we rewound it and heard it again. I was like, yes, that definitely was. Oh my God, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's wrong to describe this as the Twin Peaks of the MCU.
No.
Like, there's some real sideways stuff going on in here.
Yeah.
It's,
but the whole opening to episode 4 was just... what has happened?
Yeah, because it starts off with her rematerializing after the blip. In the hospital.
Because you messaged me directly, didn't you? And you said, like, the first 5 minutes of this episode is just more compelling than anything that has happened already. Like,
yeah.
Well, it's a very well done sequence of events, and also it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you have all these questions, we will get to answers, and one of the big questions is like, up until that point, when does this take place in the MCU? And it's like, okay, I mean, we're pretty much in line with everything else. So this is directly after the events of Endgame.
And the thing is, and I think when we spoke about Endgame and possibly even Infinity War, I feel like, and yes, like plenty of people know what's going on. Like enough people have watched all like the previous 15 years of work to appreciate what is happening in this, but you get those few outliers who probably don't know anything about this. I feel like they would just be completely lost and wouldn't be able to enjoy this for what it is. And I don't know, it seems strange that they're making this show hoping that everyone knows what's going on. Like, do you know what I mean? There's nothing in it for people that haven't been invested so far. I don't think. I think people would be too lost.
I would be incredibly surprised if there were people watching this show who didn't know what the blip was.
Of course, yeah.
Because I think that the Infinity War and Endgame films were like watched by virtually everyone in the world. It felt
of course, yeah.
But I know what you mean. Like, but it was something I was talking with someone on Twitter with over the weekend, and she hadn't watched it. And I was like, look, give it a go. If you're up on the films, if you know what's going on in the films and what have you, like the more you know about it, the more you get back.
Yeah.
She was in agreement. She was saying, the Marvel films on their own are quite fun, like standalone things. But if you get invested in them and you take into account the mythology around everything, you get more out of it the more you know. But I know what you mean, like that coming back and being like, well, what the hell is this all about? People dematerializing in a hospital, like what's that?
That's what I mean. I don't think with this show, I don't think it has the thing that the films do, whereas you can enjoy it out of context as well. Like this, I don't think you can watch this out of context at all. Liz, one of her colleagues, loves the Marvel stuff, and they watched her and her brother, who are like well invested, and her brother like massively so. They watched the first episode, and they only watched the first episode because at the end they were like, "What the fuck is this?" And Liz was like, "No, keep watching. Just stick with it. You have to." And they're not long episodes either. They're not like hour-long episodes. You're not
25
hours. It's like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
The episode 5 was nearly 40 minutes though.
Oh, really?
It? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was a lot longer.
Didn't feel like it at all.
But even in those first episodes, though, right in the middle, after something has happened, it will cut to the advertising break,
which is brilliant.
And they're always like, the first one was the Stark toaster, which had the red light going on, like it was a bomb almost.
Yeah. Well, I watched. It's funny that you didn't mention that, but like if you watch that episode again and you look at the toaster, it looks like Vision's head.
Is that
and
right?
That red light looks like the
Mind Stone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And so like I don't know if that's if if that's an indicator as to like the ticking time bomb that's going on with what's going on with Vision, or if it was just kind of a design aesthetic choice. But I watched the episodes one time, and then a friend of mine came over and she hadn't watched it yet, and I was like, well, let's go ahead and watch them again, because I want to watch them again anyway. And I was paying more attention to like the advertisements and a lot of the little stuff in the background, and that was one thing that stuck out to me, was that it looks like a toaster version, because you've got the knobs that are like the eyes, and then just the way that the design goes where the light is.
I think the other thing as well is you're now watching the earlier episodes with the context of the later episodes as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Knowing what's going on. So you spot more things, which I think is brilliant. But looking into the lore of stuff as well, where you like ticking time bomb, if you're looking at the little nods and things like that, like the helicopter that was in color that came into their world had the little sword logo on it, didn't it? What other things have there been that people have noticed? The advertisements are always nods towards things as well, like the one in episode 5, which was it Lagos or something like that?
It was Lagos, yeah.
Which is obviously a nod to where Scarlet Witch sort of tried to control it. That led to the
when you make
Sokovia
mistakes
Accord,
that you
it?
didn't mean to.
That's right.
Or
like there's
something.
all these little tiny little things which are just it's so good.
And as well, the thing that she spilt in the first bit where she was mopping it up was red as well, which is blood, obviously. You know, the fact that she killed a load of people in Lagos accidentally. Yeah, it's the more you look into it, the more you get, that's for sure.
Which is why.
But then there was
I
the
love
second
the internet,
episode.
It explains everything to me.
The second
episode,
there was the Hydra watch, wasn't there? The Von Strucker watch. And you're like, oh well, maybe it's Hydra. Maybe they're back. Maybe that's what you know.
That was where I sort of went.
But then you find out then the beekeeper has got the sword logo on his back as well, and the beekeeper's outfit looked a lot like the AIM scientists from the comics.
There was
kind
things
of hazmat suits, and you're like, well, that's clearly maybe it's. I wasn't at that point. I hadn't done any reading into it and didn't know that sword was the thing. So I thought maybe it was AIM. Which is advanced something, or I can't remember the exact what it stands for.
But yeah, because I think after that episode where the beekeeper came out, there was articles saying, "Oh, is this a hint at Marvel's like one of their scariest villains and something like that as well?" Like, but I think that's the whole point, isn't it? Yeah. I think that's the whole point, isn't it? They're like a lot of this stuff is nods to other things that so it might not necessarily, which is why. I put out that tweet yesterday. I don't know if you've seen it, Andrew, where I posted an image of one of our older episodes from December 2017. About Reverse House of M, because that's where this looks like it's going. But is it just an homage to the House of M, or are they actually going that way? Is it misdirection and things like that? Because I've looked and I've seen. I've not read House of M. It's on its way because you've got to do your research. But there's a scene where there's a page in the House of M where Wanda and Vision are arguing at the dinner table. They're having an argument about the kids, and like Vision's trying to tell her that the kids aren't real and stuff like that, which like the twins that they had. And like it's trying to tell her that they aren't real because she's created this, and it is exactly pretty much what is going on here, but is it on purpose to make you think that's what they're doing?
Right, yeah.
Because it got quite tense at the end of that 5th episode.
It was the argument where he was trying to tell her things weren't real and she's making it all up, which is like directly from the comic. Like,
because at this point, we had episode 4 where it focused more on the outside world, and that was where Jimmy Woo comes back into it. And I didn't realize it was him. I knew I recognized him, and I was like, that flick of the card, I was like, I recognized it from somewhere, but it was only when Andrew told me, it was like, oh
yeah, because I remember watching it the first time and I'm like, oh, it's him, he's back. I loved it. Like I thought his whole dynamic with Scott Lang in Ant-Man and Wasp, I was like, that was great. And then I happened to like look away for just a second, and I thought I saw him like flip his hand, and I was just like, did he just? Yeah, he just did. He just did. Like he apparently he took the YouTube tutorial on sleight of hand that Scott had recommended to him. But I thought that was a nice nod, and that was something for episode 4. And going back to the whole idea of, what you guys were talking about as far as, the films are good standalone. Mm-hmm. This is definitely like a companion piece. Yes, it's something that you should probably watch because it looks like they're introducing, as we've seen from the very final shot of the recent episodes, like they're introducing a new aspect to the universe. And it's like, this is big, but you also need to know all this other stuff beforehand. And it's funny because I was talking about it with one of my coworkers, and she asked me, she was like, are you watching WandaVision? I said, yes. And she's like, yeah, it's really good, but there's a lot that they have yet to unpack. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, and I didn't realize, because the thing about the Marvel film is that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that it's so saturated with content and with story and everything, where it's like, the writing is so good that you could watch Endgame or you could watch Infinity War and you're like, oh, who's this character? And they give you kind of like enough context to be like, okay, they give you enough exposition to be like, okay, this is what they are. Apparently she and her boyfriend had not watched Age of Ultron because they were like, wait, what happened?
Right.
And so they didn't realize that, all this stuff had taken place. They hadn't watched the film that introduced Wanda and Vision. They just, these are characters. We've got so many different characters in this whole universe where it's just like, who are those two in the background? Oh, that's them. Okay. Do they have a story? Okay. They do. Okay. Well, I mean, they just did a thing. Oh, look, and Cap's back. Okay, take the center stage again. Yeah. But yeah, I think for this particular series, you do have to have, like, because again, I think one of the things with Marvel, and it's a smart thing, but it's also something that could hinder them if they didn't have as big of an audience as they do. Is the whole idea where it's like, you have significant shots. Why is it significant? Like, I've seen all the Marvel films at least once. I mean, I only saw Iron Man 3 once, so I knew that the random kid who's standing there at Tony Stark's like funeral or whatever, oh, that's the kid from Iron Man 3. But you get, who's that kid? Oh, he's a big Tony Stark fan. Like, you get those. You get those small things, and so it's like, but where this series is concerned, it's like it seems like an important cornerstone in the universe, but it could also like really lose you if you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, but, I mean, I've always said that after kind of Endgame, I think a lot of people are going to jump off anyway, because I think they see that as like the end of that saga. And I feel like this is setting up where it could set up any number of different things.
Yeah, it's setting up something massive. You know it's going to start something huge. Like, nothing's going to be the same after this. But going back to the Iron Man 3 thing with the kid, like at Tony Stark's funeral at Endgame, like they're going through everyone, and then it's like lands on that kid, and my wife's like, "Who is that?" I'm like, "I don't." Wait, is that straight on IMDb? I'm like, yeah, it is. Right. Like, it's the little kid from the garage. Like, it's like, but yeah, it's I mean, it was a bit more significant than that, but it was the kid from the garage in my head. But yeah, it's I'm sure I had a point I was going to make. Oh yeah, motherfucking Kat Dennings is back, which I'm so happy for.
Yeah,
it's just so bonkers. Like, Darcy is like she's just wandering about, and she's like, "Oh, what's this? Let me get a TV. Oh, look, it's a TV show." Like, and where the fuck did that come from?
That's something else that I've really enjoyed, especially because it's like, yeah, you would love to get like Chris Hemsworth or Natalie Portman, or but the thing also about the MCU is that all of these side characters have also been given enough story and enough character where it's like you can feel the impact. So not only are you pulling in from the Ant-Man world. All these characters are connected without knowing they're connected. You pull in, Jimmy Woo, and then you pull in Darcy, and it's like you don't need Chris Hemsworth to be like, oh, this is a connection to Thor, and I would have to say that I appreciate the subtlety of it, where it's like all these different things. I mean, and even Monica Rambeau, where it's like, oh, that's the daughter of the best friend, and it's like you're pulling in from Captain Marvel, and especially after this recent episode where you kind of get, if you understand the look on Monica's face when they mention Marvel, and
there's that bit in the kind of lab bit, isn't there, where they were saying about certain people, or like the fact that Scarlet Witch they kind of have the geek conversation, don't they? And it's like, oh well, Scarlet Witch would have killed Thanos if something hadn't happened, and she was the only one who was anywhere near close. And then like Jimmy was like, well, actually, I think Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, was actually pretty close to destroying Thanos as well. And you're like, well, that's fun, but also, you get that.
But what was that look?
Kind of look of recognition on Monica Rambeau's face of like, oh.
Yeah, but what was that look though?
Well, I guess
she idolized Captain Marvel when she was a kid, but that look was a bit like, let's not talk about her.
She missed out on that. And B, I suppose it's something to do with, the connection to her mum, maybe.
Possibly a connection to her mum, or she might have felt like she was abandoned.
That's what I was thinking, because Captain Marvel takes place in the 90s, and 30 years have passed almost, and Captain Marvel only came back for Endgame. Captain Marvel's been all over the universe, and it's like that entire time, here's this girl growing up, having idolized this woman, and basically everything, to an extent, everything that was set up for S.W.O.R.D. pretty much is because of her. And it's like, well, where is she? So I mean, I would get that it was a feeling of abandonment, and she's just like, you say that fucking name one more time, just
try me. But
all of our briefings, like, it's just like, if Captain Marvel were here, well, she's not. But stop bringing her up.
What I love about Jimmy Woo and Darcy's characters as well is they're us, aren't they?
Yeah.
Watching it.
Yeah.
That they are there for us to add context and to just tell us that if you missed it, this is what happened.
It's one of those things where she's like, oh, we need a TV. Oh, look, here's a TV. Can you get me a better but like she instantly knows exactly how to do it, where all these other scientists haven't. And then the whole bit with sending in the drone as well to like take out, or like to observe, but then they try taking her out. The military take over the drone and try to take her out, and then she brings that, and it's where she drops into the Sokovian accent as well.
Yes,
where all the time she's in there, she's doing an impression of various decades of sitcom characters.
But when she comes back out,
she's a badass.
Yeah, she drops into that Sokovian accent, which makes you wonder where they're taking her, though, doesn't it? Because even in things like Infinity War and Endgame, where she was now an ally, like the accent was less. Like she didn't have such a strong accent, but she got angry, came out to confront them, and that accent is just there. And I think the argument she was having with Vision as well, the accent came back. Yeah. So you're starting to think what's happening there. Why?
That was when she was a villain, wasn't she? Her and Quicksilver were villains in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about the foreshadowing of Quicksilver as well. It's like back in episode 3. She mentions that she used to have a twin after she's given birth to twins. And she talks to Geraldine about having a twin. And that's when Geraldine says, oh, yeah, wasn't your twin killed by Ultron?
Yes.
And that's when she gets all fucked up. But the weird thing about that is she resets things, right? And it jump cuts. But we see slightly more than Kat Dennings sees, that Darcy sees on the thing. Because there are cuts where it's cut where we've seen it, but then we see a little bit more of the scene.
We see it go back.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom's frozen.
And we see they see the... No, you all froze. I didn't freeze.
Oh, okay, right. It was us that was freezing, not you. All right. Love it.
What reality is this? What's happening here?
I don't know. There was a glitch and I reset it.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
But there's just it's interesting what's left out of the actual broadcast. Because there's the bit where she gets rid of Geraldine, but then it cuts to them just sitting down. There's none of that where's Geraldine bit.
You
know.
Yeah, we see that. Interesting as well. And
that was the bit.
I was going to say, I never put
There's that
together.
delay again.
Okay, talking about when you're talking about Quicksilver and not Scarlet Witch, Wanda, because she's not Scarlet Witch. They made sure we knew that she doesn't have an alias. The interesting thing, and I didn't realize until I was watching the episode, was reading about it, that Wanda and Pietro, her brother, are results of experiments of the Mind Stone, which is what Vision had in his head, and then she made this connection with Vision. And like, I never put those things together until watching it. Like, oh yeah, she's a result of this experimentation with the Mind Stone, and then she ends up falling in love with the character who's created using the Mind Stone.
Which is probably how she's able to reanimate him.
Because
she's got that. She's got that internal source.
She's got the Mind Stone power within her. I'd never ever put two and two together like about that, and I was just like, oh yeah. Very strange.
But again, like that's like I was saying before, that's kind of a, there's so much to remember from the rest of the universe that it's like, you just feel like you're reading Harry Potter again. It's just like, oh wait, that's right. That's the sword is important. That's right. Oh yeah, that's right. Wanda has her powers imbued from the same stone that gave life to the man thing that she's in love with. Oh right.
It's like all that's all that
degrees.
All these things that it's just so interwoven, and it's just like the comic book world, isn't it? Like the way they're doing the cinematic universe is just like the comic books are made, and we've said it so many times. It's like, to appreciate what's going on here, you need to have seen all of this. And it's the same with the comics. It's like, to understand what's going on in New Avengers, you need to have known what happened in the old Avengers, and you need to see what's going on in the Thor comic over there and Spider-Man over here. And it just all comes together. And so the end of episode 5, I mean, I think you've alluded to it already, like the last scene anyway, is where, and I love Darcy's comment on it as well. Like where she opens the door and she's like, she's recast Pietro, and it's like, oh my god, that's so good.
That was it. Like they were having that massive argument, and it got very, very heated between Vision and Wanda. And you're like, things are gonna pop off here. Like this is it. And then he's like, I don't remember anything before this. I don't remember being anywhere before coming here. And why the hell are things happening in days that would usually take decades? Like kids growing up from infants to 15-year-old or 10-year-olds in the space of a day. And then it was also the neighbor came in and was talking about like looking after the kids, and then she was like, oh, do you want me to go from the top? Like this is normally where we and it's all starting to fall apart. It's beyond her control now. And then the door knocks and she's like, that wasn't me. And he's like,
whatever.
At this point, I'm not looking at statistics anymore. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on, basically.
Pretty much.
She opens the door and you see behind the head, it's like a head of silver hair. And I was like, is this I wasn't. I obviously had no idea who the hell it was going to be, but there was a part of me that was like Magneto.
Oh yeah.
Like, is it Eric? Is it Eric Selvig? Is it, you know?
Yeah, Liz thought it might have been what's her name from Captain Marvel? The
intelligence.
The older lady. Well, yeah, the intelligence takes on her form, doesn't it?
Yeah,
because that's Carol's.
Yeah.
What was her name? Oh, Marvel. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Thank you, Liz. Yeah, Liz thought it was Marvel.
Come on, get with the program.
Yeah. She thought it might have been her, which is like, yeah, no, that. But and the thing is, like, part of you goes, well, why would it be her? And then part of you goes, it's WandaVision. Why wouldn't it be her? Like,
exactly.
Well,
you know,
I have to say, like, as soon as the door knocked, I was hoping it was Quicksilver.
Yeah.
And I was hoping it was Evan Peters, because based off of the conversations that, you know, I've heard you guys talk about, as well as the conversations that we've had in recent weeks, you know, this would be a great way to introduce the Fox, you know, Marvel stuff.
Well, this is it. Like,
I mean, there was loads
I was shocked that it wasn't Aaron Taylor Johnson, because why wouldn't it be Aaron Taylor Johnson? And then when it was him, I was like, it took me like 3 seconds.
Well, at the shot of you know, the behind this, you know, the behind the head shot, I think we were supposed to think it was him.
Yeah.
And of course, my head, I'm like, there's a reason why we're seeing the back of his head.
Yeah.
It's not who we think it is. And as soon as you see that it's Evan Peters, I mean, I was sitting here, midnight was on my lap, and I went, ha! And dude just flipped out and just went, pew! And but yeah, because I was talking with my coworker, because they, you know, again, she hadn't seen Age of Ultron. And I was like, yeah, it was a very interesting kind of arrangement that Fox and Marvel had at the time, because they had already introduced Quicksilver in, you know, the X-Men series for Days of Future Past. And so they had this like whole arrangement where they're like, in order to bring Wanda in, you have to have Pietro, but you have to kill off Pietro, because there can only be one Quicksilver in either of these universes. And just the way that played out, and it's playing out now, it's like, it's just a brilliant bit of, well, first of all, it was a contract thing originally, but now it's the storytelling mechanism.
It really does. Yeah.
Where that version of Quicksilver died, and we still have a version of Quicksilver out there, and it's just blending the worlds.
But there's the whole thing of like, she says she's not creating that, so where the hell has he come from? That's the next thing.
I think this is a conversation. Well, something I was saying to you, Tom, wasn't it? It's like, we in Wanda's world, Pietro is dead.
Yeah.
Now it's like, where did this Quicksilver come from? If she has created him, if she has recast him, as they're saying, oh, she's recast Pietro. If she has recast him, who is he when he's not Quicksilver in her head?
Because all those people in that town are people from that town in real life that are being enslaved by her mind control, aren't they? But
this is Pietro. Like, so what is going on here? Now, there is the theory going out there. I mean, I think there was talk anyway that he was going to be coming into WandaVision anyway, the actor, wasn't there? Like, that had been rumored for a long time. Now, there's a lot of talk out there as well, because we know there's going to be a Spider-Verse.
Yeah, a live action.
We know Doctor Strange, there's going to be multiverses in Doctor Strange. So is he Quicksilver from a multiverse? And if so, where did he come from?
Yeah.
How is this going to fit in? Is this going to link
Westview?
him with Doctor Strange eventually, where we actually see him coming from the multiverse and then going to find Wanda because he knows? Like, how is this going to fit in? Like,
and this is the big mystery
so
for the next. Because there's going to be 10 episodes all in all. Is that right? Possibly. Is that what I've read somewhere?
I'm not sure.
So we're halfway through the series, and this is. You know, there's still another half.
There was still more to come. Now,
but does it open up the fact that all the other X-Men from the Fox franchise are still out there and can come into the MCU now, which means that Hugh Jackman is still going to be playing Wolverine for another 20 years? will it be James McAvoy or Patrick Stewart, or will it be both?
But because we're going to have all of the Spider-Mans, aren't we?
Yeah.
And the other thing as well, like you're saying, interestingly, you're saying, are they going to bring in all the X-Men, blah, blah, blah. Let me pose this question. Thinking of all the Fox properties and Rambo saying, I know an aerospace engineer. Who is this aerospace engineer? Come on. No.
Beast.
Sorry? No.
Are you talking about McCoy, or are you talking about...
No.
Again,
I didn't come up with this.
DC guys.
I didn't come up with this myself. I read this. I read this
Oh,
online.
okay.
This theory online, and it made me go, "Oh yeah, no, that's a good point." About Reed Richards or Sue
Right,
Storm,
yeah.
Gotcha.
or Ben.
Well, that's been the other thing. Is it going to be mutants, or is it going to be the Fantastic Four that gets created because of this? It's going to be one or the other.
Now Monica Rambeau is saying she already knows, so it could be that. The Fantastic Four are already in that universe, but they're not the Fantastic Four yet.
Yeah.
So could it be that it'll be like, so Sue Storm and Reed Richards and stuff, they're never called aerospace engineers because they were characters created before that was a thing, apparently, according to this article. So is it going to be that one of them will come to help with this situation and then Scarlet Witch ends up giving them their powers?
Ooh.
That's a good point. That's interesting. So you get the team of four show up.
So they're already in that world, but they're not the Fantastic Four yet, and Wanda creates them, possibly, which is a sort of reverse House of M.
Yeah, in a way, which would make them mutants.
Yeah, but it's or is it the, because now think about this again, going back to this article and the theories, because I don't come up with this because I don't know it as much as I could now, or is it a case of the Fantastic Four do have their powers, they've not unlocked yet, and because Monica Rambeau has powers in the comics. Does she already?
She becomes Captain Marvel at one point, doesn't she?
Yeah, but not. She takes on the moniker, but So, is it a case of they've got these powers inherently within them, as mutants do? They're born with the powers, and something has to happen for them to unlock those powers. So it could be that the Fantastic Four and Monica have gone to space together and done missions together, and they've now got these powers within them. They're just not unlocked because there's that part where they can't get a good X-ray of Monica.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Now, you think that's because she's been in there, or is that because she's got powers from elsewhere?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Interesting.
So
there's lots of I shouldn't go online and read this stuff because it sort of spoils it, but it also makes my head canon.
But the thing is with the online stuff, what you find is that some of it seems to come from sources where they know what's going to happen.
Possibly,
a lot of things that you
there is that danger
eventually come out to be true, and I'm never quite sure if that's disappointing or not.
But at the same time, it's there's people that know this lore and they've studied and read these comics and the stories for years. So they're like, so then they'll go, well, that kind of fits in with this, so maybe this is what happens to help. It's because we know the Fantastic Four are coming back at some point. Like that's been talked about for quite a while. We know the mutants are coming into the MCU. We know there's going to be multiverses. So and all of this, it looks like they are using WandaVision as the catapult, like you say, to phase 4. Or the new,
definitely
the new thing.
And I think what I'd quite like to see is Benedict Cumberbatch show up at some point
in this would be great.
The very end, because I think that because Black Widow was supposed to have come out last year, it's been delayed, so we were supposed to have seen that before this, but then it's set way before this anyway. But the very next show that was supposed to come out, or the very next movie that was supposed to come out, is Multiverse of Madness. And so it would make sense for Doctor Strange to appear at some point in this, and then like Wanda is almost like the big bad of Multiverse of Madness. He's trying to undo all the weirdness that she's doing in this TV show that is causing massive rifts and allowing Fox Pietro to come into MCU.
Yeah.
You know,
and the thing is as well that they did heavily lean on what's her moniker. Has she got a nickname?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. No. She's this, she's that. Now Scarlet Witch, which again, back to this article, which has negative connotations to it. Does this show end up with her becoming the Scarlet Witch?
Well, yeah, because that was something else that Andrew was saying as well, wasn't it? That Agnes is also possibly a witch type character.
Yeah, the
her neighbor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she seems to know more, doesn't she? And the neighbor seems like that neighbor, Vision's friend, seems to know more.
Yeah.
Than what, like, and like they're over the garden wall having a sort of secretive conversation, aren't they? So it seems like they.
Yeah, because that's the weird thing for me, is that like everyone else in that environment is clearly being brainwashed, which we know because Vision booped the guy. Like, you know, brought him fully conscious and then put him back in because it was too much. But those characters,
specifically those two,
like the next door neighbors on both sides,
they know,
seem to know a lot more and are more kind of conscious of what's going on. So what the fuck is that about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't seem to be under control. They don't seem to be, because that's the thing. That's where the neighbor, when she says, "Do you want to take him? Do you want to?" Like, she's expecting her to do the reset.
Yeah.
She's expecting her to do the reset, but she doesn't. She sort of carries on. Yeah, those two. There's something about those two, for sure.
Yeah. There's still so much more left to cover, isn't there? That's the thing.
We're gonna have to do another one of these after the next 5
after
episodes.
the finale. Yeah. We've
sure.
got our midway. So, like, predictions then. Okay, right, predictions.
Oh.
So I predict that Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange turns up at the end.
That's a really good shout.
Yeah.
To try and fix it, and then that will lead directly into the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, maybe he takes down her hex. That's the other thing
hex.
as well.
Yeah,
it's a hex. I'm calling
it the hex. Yeah,
that's a witch thing. Hexes, isn't it? Like like
pentagrams and hexagrams, and
There's a whole thing around the hex as well. There was something I saw where if you go back and watch, which one is it where you see Nick Fury in space on a ship? Is that the end of Guardians?
The end of
2. That's the end of Spider-Man.
No, that's the end of
Spider-Man.
Far From Home, yeah.
Watch it again. That's the end credits thing, isn't it? Watch it again and look at the screen behind him. There's a hexagonal shape on the screen behind him.
Interesting. Because is that where he's on a pretend beach?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where he's gone to. What's it called? What do they call it? In
Haiti,
yeah. In
which
Agents
is the
of Shield.
Coulson thing, which actually finished as well recently. The final episodes went out the other day, and I've finished that as well.
Wow, nice. Prediction wise.
Yeah, so my prediction: Benedict Cumberbatch will appear at the end, but probably right at the end.
No, see, my thing is, I think this. I'm sticking with our reverse House of M thing, but possibly not her unlocking the powers in everyone. But I don't know if it's going to happen within this or it's going to happen as a result of this show. So it happens in another film, but because of this show. I don't. Is Vision gone, or is he going to come back? I think Vision will be gone.
Yeah.
So do I.
Midnight agrees.
And will the twins be real?
That's a good question.
Because they are heroes, aren't they? In the comics, they're actually characters.
Are they?
I
don't know. What about you, Andrew? Do you have any particular things that you want to try and predict for the end?
No, I mean, in this conversation, I would definitely lean a little heavier on Benedict possibly making
an appearance.
An appearance. Because you asked where did Pietro come from, and you bring Doctor Strange into the mix, and it's like, well, maybe this is another, like, things have jumped, and maybe there's another angle on people trying to get into Westview. Maybe it's not
I suppose because he's got the time stone still, doesn't he? Or does he not?
Yeah.
I can't remember. But like he has knowledge of things that so he might already be aware of this and has been going through various dimensions to pick a person to bring back to
break her out of it. Yeah.
Because we've only seen, this whole town is basically, to quote a Stephen King novel, under the dome of Wanda's influence. So we've only really seen like one side of it, and we've only seen Rambo and Wu and Darcy. Like we've seen their side. What's going on the other side? Are we just to assume that they just have stations open up over there, or do they have another team of other people looking in from a different direction?
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
I mean, and to your point, Doctor Strange, with the time stone, he could have, to look at Infinity War and Endgame. It's like, I know the outcome. We just got to let it happen.
Yeah.
And so, the reason why he hasn't, stepped in is because like this has to happen in order for the worlds to collide and
for the best possible outcome. Yeah. And I think if we don't want to take like the House of M thing, because that could happen beyond, I did pick up on that when Rambo said, "Oh, I know an aerospace engineer who'd be interested in this." I picked up on that and I wondered who the hell she was talking about. And after reading that article, I think this could be, I think one of the Richards could come in, Eve or Ben. I'm not sure. Sue Storm would be a good one to bring into it, I think. But I reckon it's going to be like, it's going to bring the Fantastic Four into it somehow. Maybe not as their superhero characters, but just like either Reed Richards or Sue Storm or someone like that might come into it.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about who she might mean when she said about aerospace engineers.
Yeah, I picked up on that because it's the way she lent into it. Oh, I know an aerospace engineer who might be interested in this. So I think one of the Fantastic Four will be in by the end of it.
I think it'll be
Michael Chiklis again.
Well, that's it. I mean, they can put, or it could be, Billy Elliot.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever his name is. I doubt they'll pull from the Jamie Bell. Thank you.
And you know what? I feel like, people should listen to us when we come up with these ideas because we were right 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Although that is to be proved as well. Yeah.
Yes.
So
but we were right.
We'll find out. So it'll be interesting to come back in 5 weeks' time and have a chat and see what's happened. I think.
Yeah.
How accurate the predictions are.
Clean up the remnants of our exploded heads.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if it answers all the questions. If it answers the questions.
Right, exactly.
And do you know what? This is the first... Well, I mean, fair enough. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was the first outing of the MCU TV unit.
Yeah, but it never really properly tied in, did it?
No, there were little hints, but this is the first one. And going at this makes me excited for all the other ones.
Because as well, at the end of this, in March...
And What If leads
Falcon
into the
and
multiverse as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The show What If that's going to be coming out. If you use the multiverse. So when that was first announced, it was like, oh, this is going to be thing to the side where we say, what if Captain America was bad? What if this was that? But in actual fact, looking at this now, if they're bringing the multiverse into it, What If could be actually directly linked to what's going on. Rather than being a side thing, it could actually be a part of the multiverse and link directly into the MCU.
Yep.
I'm so excited for whatever they're bringing next. It's good.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens because then again as well, in March you've got Falcon and Winter Soldier coming out as well. Oh my
God, I cannot wait for that.
So we'll see how that is going to tie in as well, or when that's set.
It's amazing what they're doing.
I really appreciate like the series and what they're doing because you're able to because in watching this series, and back to the whole idea, like it feels like when you're reading a comic book and you're reading a very intense series. So let's say in like the comic book way that they are published, like Endgame would take place over several different titles. And you know, in order to get this is Captain America's side, so you have to read Captain America issues 105 through 110, and then you get the other Avengers. Whereas WandaVision is like, this is its own line, and yes, it connects to the story, but like you don't like, this is its own thing, and you're able to do the weird things. Like it's semi Deadpool-esque, but not where, you know, you're reading a serious story and then all of a sudden, wait a minute, we're in the 70s now. Like this took, you know, and what's going on here? It doesn't have that disjointed feel. It's its own kind of encapsulated entity. And you know, you still have to pull from references, but it makes sense to do it this way, where you're like, you can play with, you know, black and white. You can play with the ratio aspects, which is something that I've absolutely loved. Where it's oh, by the way, you're watching the show because now it's in, you know, everything's
They use that very well. Yeah, they've used that perfectly.
And the transitioning of it, and so
it doesn't pull you out at all, does it? Like you don't really notice it's like, happening. It's weird. It's so good.
Which would to kind of touch on a point real quick, you know, I'd have to wonder if the ratio aspects are different in the scenes where we're aware of, let's say, the scene between Wanda and Geraldine, like if like we're there as opposed to watching it on TV.
I think it did widen back out, and also the fidelity changed.
Yeah. There was a point, wasn't there, where we were watching it in like widescreen, and then I think was that the part where. Was it in episode 5 where the drone comes in? No, what was it? There was an episode, wasn't there, where it was where Wanda was outside of it, and then all of a sudden, as she pulled us back in, it sort of the sides came in, didn't they?
Yeah, that was episode 5. Yeah.
Like actually, you did see that transition. So it's like she's getting control of everything again, and now we're back. Like it was,
But I've just really appreciated, you know, this is a main part of the story, but it's a side story, and I've always been one of those. I love when they make, let's say, I'm a purist when it comes to books, and I'm like, if you're going to adapt the book. Like don't put some like twist on it. Don't, you know, and you know, harken back to Stephen King. It's like, I love Stephen King books. I loathe Stephen King movies because it's always just like, oh, we're going to do this with it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But, you know, if you take a long running story, condensing it down to 2 hours isn't going to do the story justice. So doing these, you know, 10 episode series really gives you an opportunity to establish everything and keep people on their toes and to make things interesting and to flesh things out. And you get more out of it.
You couldn't have told this story as a film.
No
way.
No. No, so that's what I'm really enjoying about their, you know, Marvel doing this whole, and especially considering, you know, our previous conversation where the world of cinema is changing. Based off of, movie theaters are not a thing at the moment, and so people are streaming. So what can you do? Well, people are going to be home. You know, people are home and watching things more often, so you can take the time to tell the story. And all these Marvel properties that are coming out as series, I think, is just, you know, it's going to make the whole cinematic universe all the more palpable.
They're just doing great things with this,
and it gives you more time to get to know the characters as well. Like the characters they're putting in the TV shows are not the characters that have had loads of their own movies.
Yes, that's what I was thinking as well. Then I was going to say they're side characters, but Winter Soldier's definitely not You know, he had a film named after him, but do you know what I mean? Like, but other than that, he's sort of been like a support piece, hasn't he? Like you were saying about earlier, Andrew. It's like, here's Winter Soldier. Oh, and his friend Captain America, who's the main one. Like, and he's just his sidekick. Like, it's so you've got like, let you say, Vision and Wanda, and then you've got Loki's the other one, and then. Winter Soldier and Falcon, they're like side pieces, but they're characters that we all really like. We've always liked Wanda and Vision. Like which film was it where you sort of first see them? It was like which film was it where you sort of first see them as a couple, and he sort of phases through the floor, and they're sort of in the kitchen cooking together, aren't they? Or Vision's trying to cook. Oh,
is that Civil War? Is it Civil War?
Is it Civil War?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
where they're trying to keep Wanda from leaving.
Yeah, and you first see them like sort of like, and you look at them, you're like, oh my god, that like they're really sweet characters.
He's wearing a sweater.
Yeah, brilliant. But yeah, so like these are characters you like, and Loki, like everyone loves Loki. Everyone loves him. There's nobody who doesn't like it. Even in the first sort of film where he's the villain, you're like, I like him.
It's charisma, isn't it?
Yeah. But I don't know if that's the character or if that's just Tom Hiddleston. I'm not sure. But
yes,
exactly. That is the right answer. But we're definitely going to have to come back to this after the end of it and have this chat again, because
maybe cut and shut 2 episodes together, perhaps, as the ultimate. Like, here's what it was before. Here's what it is now.
yeah. When it goes out on the main feed, we'll do just the 2 episodes together.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. We'll give ourselves like a month off. I don't know. Yeah. I think there's not really much we can cover, can we? We're just blown circles. No, I love it. This is what I think is going to happen.
We've gone from kind of weird ambivalence to being right in the middle of this thing that is now
quite possibly the best thing on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I would say so. But yeah, we've made our predictions. We've got 5 more weeks left to go. Let's reconvene in 5 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, see how wrong we were.
Yep. That's pretty much what it's going to
be. Awesome.
But I think we'll be pleased with how wrong we were.
If we're wrong, we're going to love the fact we were wrong.
Yeah. And that's the point, isn't it? You can make up what you want because you want it to happen, but actually what you're given quite often is exactly what you want and is way better than you could ever imagine. So we'll
it's
see.
Like Disney telling us what we need.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like them.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. Okay. Well, 5 weeks time, we'll do this again.
For sure.
We'll see where we are.
For sure.
All right, see you then.
Thank you again for coming on, Andrew.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
We'll see you very, very soon.
This is for the final 4 episodes of WandaVision. We recorded the first 5 episode Spoilercast with Andrew a few weeks ago, and he's back to finish it off, as we said he would be.
Indeed.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. And it's only a 4-hour time difference at the minute, so it's not too bad.
Thank you, daylight saving.
It's not as bad. So, I mean, where did we leave? I mean, how do we want to structure this? We left off with saying, is it going to be reverse House of M? Are we coming into some money after suing Marvel?
We left it off at episode 5 because we thought that was the halfway point of the season.
Yeah,
it turns out, because I was
under the impression it was going to be 10. I don't know where I got that idea, because apparently it was never going to be 10.
I saw on IMDb, you have everyone listed as like 10 episodes, but that might have also included the assembled special episode that they had that released the week after the final episode.
Yeah,
which is really good.
Yeah,
so I was like, technically, I did watch 10 episodes, so I feel okay about it.
Yeah, I felt robbed when season 9, when episode 9 turned out to be the finale. I was like, hold on, wait, no.
See, I thought, because it's like episode 9 was called season finale, I was like, oh, is that just like this is going to be the last Wanda episode? Is this going to be the last episode within the series of, in her head? Is this when she does it, and then episode 10 is going to be like a wrap up of the whole thing? But there's no actual episode, so like it's not. But no, it was actually the season finale. So okay, but yeah,
which I guess fits with the whole theme of the show. With nothing is what it appears. Nothing is normal. Let's not round it out at a nice even 10. Let's just 9 episodes. Okay, it's as weird as the show itself is. So
it's not quite an English TV series, and it's not quite an American TV series. It's somewhere in the middle. It's not a 6-episode epic that we have, and it's not a 22-episode epic that you usually have for your sitcoms and stuff. But no, it's it's 9. But I think I do seem to think like. Possibly, and I saw it rumored back like that they didn't do everything they wanted to do because of the coronavirus thing, the epidemic. So they had to change a few things. So perhaps that's why it got cut down to 9 episodes, or was that always the
I think they were originally going to release the first 3 all at once rather than the first 2. And I know that some people did see the first 3. I think it was mainly journalists saw the first 3 all in one go.
Right.
But because the pandemic and stuff affected the production, they figured out that if they released the first 3 in one go, then there wouldn't be enough time to finish the 9th episode before it went out. That was how tight it was.
Wow.
So like 1 week would have severely, like they'd have had to have delayed releasing the 9th episode for a week until they finished it.
So they were working on a South Park schedule, were they?
Yeah.
Wow.
But so we left it at the end of episode 5 where Pietro comes back and is recast.
Yeah.
That was episode 5, wasn't it?
Yeah. Played by
Evan
Peters, who played Peter in X-Men. Was it not Days of Future Past, was it? You mentioned on here.
Yeah.
Was Days of Future Past.
And Apocalypse.
Yeah. He's great. Like his Quicksilver was great anyway. And I think the way he did him in this series as well was really interesting because it was kind of Quicksilver from X-Men, but kind of like amped up massively. Like he had that sort of playful, clownish sort of thing, but it was just like off the scales on this one.
Yeah.
Which again, I mean, really fit with. I mean, you accept it because everything else is at that same level.
Heightened.
It's turned up to 11, and it's heightened, and so you accept it, which is a testament to how great the storytelling and the production of the show was, where it's just like, okay, we accept this.
It was. I did like going back to the making of, because I know you said you watched it, Andrew. I did as well. I don't know if Tom did, but the actress who plays Rambo says that when she was going for her screen test, or she was going for her audition, and she's like, well, what I don't know how to do this, and they're like, just go for it, just overact completely, because it's a sitcom, you're supposed to overact, it doesn't matter. So she was like, oh, okay. So it sort of fits that his character is just completely out there. But the Halloween episode was episode 6, wasn't it? Which
that's right.
That's where we saw them in their sort of comic book costumes, which was brilliant. But yeah, it was Vision coming down the stairs looking like a luchador.
That's right.
It's so good. But it's interesting because then that meant he could walk out into the street without putting his human face on. He could go out with his Vision face, couldn't he?
And this is it was the first one after he really started to figure stuff out, wasn't it? Obviously they had that fight at the end of episode 5, and this is because he came downstairs and was like, oh, this was the only thing that was in the wardrobe.
Yeah,
like these were the only clothes there were. He wasn't happy about having to wear them.
Yeah,
you can take that two ways though. It's like, because it's you can see that is in two ways, as in like he didn't have anything else because Wanda wanted him to wear that, so that's what she made the reality. But then you can also take that in the sitcom aspect of it, as in she hid all of his other clothes because she wanted him to wear that. like for the kids. So it's like it's got that double sort of meaning, hasn't it? Where it's like, did she do it with her mind and made that the only thing available, or was it just like, hey, you will wear these for your kids, so I'm going to hide all your other clothes, so you've got no choice. It's sort of,
or I mean, it could also fit that like that third sitcom trope where, and Arrested Development, if you've ever seen the series, is brilliant. At least the first 3 seasons, anyway. Where it was like, anytime a character reached into a cabinet, and it was just like, oh, I need to reach into a cabinet and grab this, bottle of whatever. The joke was that the only thing in the cabinet was the bottle of whatever, because it was the only thing that needed to be in the scene.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's only the only thing that they need for that. It's the only thing the set dressers have put in.
Because we also got to kind of the late 90s, early 2000s sitcom tropes as well. This was kind of your Malcolm in the Middle,
where
it was focused on like the kids talking to camera,
and the crazy intro. That wow, what a crazy intro! What was it? like proper 90s, like poor quality camera zooming in, titles everywhere,
pop punk,
punk theme tune.
Yeah. Badly sung.
Well, yes,
by professional.
Yes,
yes, an actual pop punk band. But what at this point was it episode 5 where the Tommy and Billy became sort of prepubescent Tommy and Billy? Was that episode 5 or was that in this one where Agnes at this point she had the puppy, didn't she? And no, they found a puppy, didn't they? And they wanted it to grow up. I think that was episode 5 actually, wasn't it?
Yes.
You can't have it until you're 10 and then they just boop.
Yeah, that's right. So we're at that stage here.
Yeah, so they're at that age. Yes. Yeah, because Pietro sort of takes the kids out and does.
He becomes fun uncle, doesn't he?
Yeah, and fun uncle. The kids are dressed up as their comic book characters as well. The Speedster, and I can't remember what the other one's called. But the Speedster's basically a miniature Quicksilver, isn't he? Like that's his costume, is Quicksilver's costume.
And the other one's like an empath.
Yeah.
Of some description. He can read minds and feel things if he's close enough to people.
So I'm just reading the notes that Hayward is a dickwad. I love it. I'm just trying to rack my brains. Like, I'm so glad you watched them again, Andrew. I'm like, what else happened in that episode? Because it's all the big things that sort of stick out in the episodes, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is where, I mean, the Vision, especially getting wise to things not being, the way that they are, is a real turning point in the series, because now it's just like, okay, when we first started the series, you're with Wanda and you're like, okay, we're kind of going along for the ride. And then as more things start to develop, then you're like, oh, and you start questioning whether or not she's the good guy, whether she's the bad guy,
Wanda becomes the villain.
And so you're like, okay, well, who can we latch ourselves onto now? Oh, Vision. So he's now, being controlled as well. So now we're kind of like, okay, well, what is Vision going to find? Let's follow him. We don't know too much about Wanda at this point. So, now that Vision is aware, let's kind of hook ourselves to him, because we're in the same boat as he is. Like, we're learning things as he's learning things.
Yeah. I think to say that Wanda's the villain in it is probably wrong. She's the antagonist of the story, definitely, because she's the sort of the person you sympathise with. You understand why she's done what she's done, but you need her to not, please.
Yeah,
because she's effectively. I mean, what we find out in this one, because at the beginning, Vision said that he's going out on neighbourhood watch duty rather than going for trick or treating, isn't he? And he goes further away from Wanda. He goes the less.
The closer to the edge of town,
the less control,
the less animated,
the less fleshed
controlled.
out the characters in the TV series are.
It was that woman hanging up the bunting who couldn't quite hang up the bunting, and she's crying at the same time. And you're
trying to hang it up backwards and forwards. That particular scene, actually, with Vision going out to the edge of town, was probably one of the most harrowing scenes. Not just in that series, but it's so uncomfortable and awful.
You have that thing where, like, up until then, he's kind of he's reset that guy that he works with and found out.
Yeah.
He's being controlled and he's hurting. He feels her pain.
Yeah,
then
Vision's able to release them.
He's free. Yeah. And then you realize that, this whole town actually, but they're not all just going about a daily life. Some of them are just standing still, and are just trapped. They're trapped.
Yeah.
Well, one of the details, and rewatching it again before, coming on here, like we were talking about before with the laugh track, they kept that same sense of unnerving, like we're keeping with the theme of the show that we're in, even though the elements that you're seeing are completely juxtaposing as he's walking toward the edge of town, and you see, to the point that you made, Tom, about the one lady who's just back and forth putting up the bunting. They stick on her long enough where you see a tear, where it's like she's aware of what's going on and can't control herself.
Yeah.
But while that's going on, and as he gets closer and closer to the edge of town, and it's dark, it's creepy, there's also that contradictory music in the background where it's like, this is supposed to be corny, this is supposed to be what kind of hijinks are we getting into? It's just like, everyone is frozen, and no one can live their lives, and here's this woman who's crying because she can't control herself, but we're having fun. And that itself, they kept with that element as well, even as you move out of the sitcom-y film before a live studio audience feel, to drive up that creep factor.
Yeah. And when he's out there, it's when he goes down the cul-de-sac, and like you said, Tom, there's parts of town where people are just stood still, I suppose, where they're not needed for the story anymore.
Yeah, they're not still. Even on set.
Yeah, it makes you think, it makes you imagine, because that pulls you into things, like thinking about things that aren't necessarily shown explicitly in the episode. It's so when you see people going into their house, you're imagining once they walked into their house, they don't need to be moving anymore, so Wanda can stop them where they are. So they just stood inside the door waiting to come back out for the next scene.
And
it's just
that whole thing comes into play later on as well.
Yeah, but
you actually get to hear the experiences of people later.
Oh, of course, yeah. But you when he's out in his neighborhood watch at the edge of town, and he goes down that cul-de-sac, and there's that woman just stood at the end of a garden while her kids are stood halfway up the garden making their way to a house or something, but they're just stood still. There's not even that backwards and forwards movement. There's just nothing anymore. Yeah. And he's trying to talk to her, but nothing. Well,
it's very reminiscent of, and I think we've mentioned it before in the previous episode, The Truman Show. It's very reminiscent of Truman Show, where it's like, all right, he's waking up everyone to position one.
Yeah.
And and you have that whole scene where the town is just frozen, but you have people they're in the process of moving, but they're kind of paused, and then okay, everyone go, and then they start up again, because that's the part. That's the part of the camera shot is on this, so you need to be moving.
Yeah, it's very, very well done. And I think it was at that point, does he come across Agatha in her car?
Yeah, because he decides to
Agnes.
Get rid of the costume. He's himself, and he flies up to basically above the trees, and that's where he sees, because throughout, especially once the kids are established in the series, the whole rule is don't go past Ellis Avenue. Don't.
Yes. Yeah.
And so he looks toward the end of the street, and there you see Agnes's car.
That's it. Yeah. So then he flies up to her, and she's sort of frozen at the edge of town in her car. And then, because he's already unfrozen his colleague at work, hasn't he? So he unfreezes her, Agnes,
and she recognizes him as an Avenger, and he has he seemingly has no recollection of what an Avenger is.
Yeah, because she says, "Am I dead?" And he said, "No. Why would you think that?"
Yeah, that's
because
right.
you are.
Because you are. That's it. Yeah.
Which is like, ooh. Yeah,
and that's a point at where he really starts putting things together as well, isn't it? Like, because she basically explains the fact that he shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So,
And she's very transfixed on the edge of town. Like she can't stop staring at it, and then he
staring
breaks her out
straight
of it.
forwards. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
that
weird.
that leads him, and that whole leads him to because the whole conversation is, she's like, town square scare. Where is that located? He's like, town square. And she's like, and where is that? I must have gotten lost. And he's like, in a town where you grew up in. And she's like, yeah. And then, he helps her turn back around, and then he keeps moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
And then we get a commercial break.
Yeah. Which is the claymation one, isn't it? The Yo Magic.
Yeah, Yo Magic, dude.
The Yo Magic is that the Desert Island one, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we were watching it, and I think that's the first, because the other ones are all a bit weird and a bit sinister, and you're like, what's that? And this one is you're just watching, you're like, what?
Out and out, like this kid's trapped on a desert island, can't open his yogurt, and so starves to death.
Yeah. What?
Look, I love the.
You're just watching it. You're like, this is definitely a turning point. This one, there's definitely something going to happen from here. Because fuck that.
And the whole tagline with this friggin', surfer shark dude, just like, yeah, dude, here's Yo Magic, the snack for survivors.
Oh god, it's so good though.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then we're back.
But
we're in.
It switches to outside the hex, then, isn't it? We start to see kind of, because
we kind of go back and forth between town square and then we meet up with Vision, because this establishes the whole thing where Wanda is still unsure as to Pietro's existence in this world. Did she create him somehow? Is he just some rogue element? And he starts giving away. It becomes very apparent that things are not what they seem.
Yeah, because I think
I'm just here to cause trouble and be that archetype. Whatever you want. Also, how did you do this? And so he's flipping back and forth between, being a part of it, while also being aware of everything going on. And this is where you establish the whole thing that, the town now has kids.
Yeah. See,
where did they come from?
At this point,
that's right.
At this point with Pietro doing his sort of like probing investigative work, I was still at that point. I think I was still thinking, perhaps Fantastic Four, and I was still thinking like multi-dimensional stuff, and he was sent in there to try and find out how she created this, so the Fantastic Four knew how to bring it down. That sort of thing. Like I was thinking he was in there investigating so they could try and bring it down, like how to undo what she had done. I mean, that's where my mind was at this point. Like I did not know what I was fucking watching still. Well, yeah, either Doctor Strange or the Fantastic Four trying to look at how to undo this. But yeah, because at that scene as well where they're talking and he's trying to ask her how she did it and stuff, she actually turns around at one point and he's full of bullet holes.
Yeah.
Which was never that Pietro.
No,
he never had the bullet holes. Still like, wait, hang on a minute. But yeah, I mean,
then she blasts him at one point as well, because he says in front of the kids, where it's not like your husband can die twice or something, or your dead husband can't die again or something.
Yeah, because it's at that point where we go back to Vision and he's found the barrier, and he goes through it and he comes out the other side, but
that's right,
he starts to come apart, and they
one of the kids, the empath child, comes and says that Dad's in trouble. Something wrong with Dad.
Billy can sense him. He can feel him, and so they go into town. And because you find out, Billy has the empath ability. Tommy has the super speed, so Tommy helps speed him, back to the center of town to get to Wanda. And that's where, Billy tells Wanda, Dad's in trouble. I think he's dying. And that's where Pietro's like, well, I mean, what's the big deal? It's not like he could die twice.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
So,
because also, we is this the episode that we find out that Hayward is tracking Vision specifically as well?
Yeah, because it's as he's getting closer to the edge of the hex, isn't it? Darcy is hacked into his system and sees that that's what they're tracking, and they can see him close to the edge of the hex. So that's why they all the military and stuff go to that point to meet him as he's coming out, don't they?
Yeah. But before that, Hayward had ejected Monica, Darcy, and Jimmy as well, hadn't he? He'd kind of had enough of their shit, basically, because they were trying to
of them calling him out and him being a dickwad,
which he totally was. Like, he's a prick. Like, I don't like him.
Yeah, you couldn't. But at that point, you couldn't quite figure out what his motivation was. And you're like, well, why is he so upset? Because at this point, you're still under the impression that is the Vision, and Wanda had stolen him.
Yes,
and taken away, and he was trying to get him back.
Yeah.
For the good of Westview and for the good of the world, and trying to avert any kind of, big event.
But there was clearly an undertone of something else there. We just didn't know what yet, and no one else really could figure it out. But he was hell bent on it. But so Monica, Darcy, and Jimmy break back in. They hack into the computer to find out where Vision is as well. And as Vision breaks through the barrier, I think Monica at this point has gone off to meet her.
Her
aeronautic engineer friend, astro engineer.
She and Jimmy are traveling out to go meet their friend, her guy on the inside or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Darcy remains to kind of keep an eye on what's going on. And as Vision comes through, she also kind of rushes down to try and save him, or ask why the hell they're not saving him. And she gets arrested and tied to or handcuffed to the front of a truck.
Yeah.
But so, and then that's kind of it, isn't it? And then, Wanda figures out that he's outside of the bounds of the hex.
And so extends them.
So, massively extends the reach of the hex, meaning that all of the sword employees then become circus performers.
All the temporary military sort of base becomes like I said, traveling circus.
Yeah.
That particular part, I just thought that was brilliant as it's expanding and all these sort of like circus tents are popping up.
But again, that really kind of, at that point, you're like, this is a massive threat, because she could technically envelop whatever she wanted. She could grow that hex as big as she wanted. And that's where like your Avengers level threat started to really come in. And I was like, right, it's got to be an Avenger going to show up and talk her down, because she's too powerful. Who else could possibly do it now?
Yeah, so Darcy ends up getting sucked into that part of the hex as well, doesn't she? Because she's handcuffed to that vehicle.
Yeah,
but
she can't get away.
As the hex is expanding, all the military people just run and leave her behind. She's like, oh, well, fuck. I'm pretty sure she actually screams fuck, doesn't she?
I think fuck. Yeah.
I do want to say that I really appreciated the fact that she turned everything into a circus, and because that's pretty much what it's turned into. And all of the like government employees, all the sword employees were turned into clowns. And I just thought that was just a fun little nod where it's just like, you're just clowns to me, they're just, and just a joke.
But that's pretty much where that one ends, isn't it?
Everybody from Sword gets sucked in except for Hayward, the bastard.
He somehow managed to drive away from it without getting stuck. But that also means that it's basically Hayward and a couple of his guys, Jimmy and Monica, going to wherever they're going as well.
They're pretty much the only ones that escape, aren't they? Episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall. This is one I think I actually got a text from our friend Loz.
Oh, yeah.
He's been on here, and he was like, "Yeah, I really liked episode 7. What was the intro though? I didn't quite get what that one was supposed to be." So I was like, "Give me a second, Andrew. What was number 7's?" I messaged him. I was like, "What is it?" And I messaged him about it. Yep, Modern Family in the Office, US. Apparently, he's like, "Oh, cool."
I got the Modern Family references because I've watched that a few times. So
Yeah,
that I got, but like that kind of interview style, like talking to the camera and then you go back to the skits happening, and it's very kind of aware of itself.
that's it. I was watching thinking it's kind of like The Office where they're talking to the camera. Also, a bit Malcolm in the Middle where Malcolm talks to the camera, but he doesn't do it in the interview style like this. I said it's kind of like The Office, but it doesn't feel right because it's like a family-based sitcom. And I've not watched Modern Family, so I don't know. But this is the episode where there was loads of rumors. Was it Modern Family where they thought the Olsen twins were going to come, like make a cameo or something?
Oh, really?
I think there was one they thought because of how it was set up that the Olsen twins might come in at some point, but you can't do that. You can't do that. They've already got the best Olsen. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, if you're not going to get Doctor Strange, you're not going to get the Olsen twins.
Yeah.
It's just, no. I mean, one of them was on Breaking Bad for like 2 episodes, so it's like, yeah.
Why don't I remember that? Okay.
No, I'm sorry, not Weeds. Sorry.
Oh, Weeds. Oh, okay. I don't know. I've not finished watching Weeds. Was it one of the later series?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, because I haven't finished watching them. They're great.
Sorry, I meant the watered down Breaking Bad.
Yeah. The Class C, not the Class A.
But yeah, real quick, the opening sequence, rewatching it, where they do all the different title cards, where it's like, Wanda, is written in the sky, and it's in the there is a part where it's like something akin to a hostage note.
Yeah, it's a ransom note, isn't it?
It's just and it says, "I know what you are doing, Wanda." It's really quick.
I saw it and I spent the next 10 minutes trying to rewind it and then pause it on the exact spot, and I never got round to it. And then I was like, why aren't I just looking this up on the internet?
Somebody else has already done
the research.
Someone else will have done the work.
20 nerds already did this for me.
So I did, and I found out what it was. Yeah. And it is like, because it caught my eye, because I was like, that's ransom lettery kind of, cut
was
out.
it like newspaper cones?
Yeah.
So on the internet, they probably figured out where those letters come from, or if you rearrange them so they work like a jigsaw, what it actually, they'd have gone all down those routes.
I didn't go that deep, but I did find out what it said. And it was kind of like a warning, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. But also with this particular sequence, it was interesting because it only highlighted Wanda, and because Vision is off doing his own thing, and so it's like, well, where is Vision? And it also lends itself to what we've mentioned before, where it's a play on words, WandaVision. You've got Wanda and you have Vision, but it's television from Wanda's perspective. And so that definitely drives home that it's Wanda is more of the centralized character. But yeah, it was a cool opening sequence, especially as we're getting into. I think this is the last opening sequence we have in this theme.
Sitcom based,
it having that kind of this is it. This is the last one. Do it all up. Do it in the style of the music is similar to the US version of The Office, and then the text at the very end is very Modern Family, at least from that like Times New Roman type, fancy. But so we get the talking heads, and she's just starting to accept what she's been doing. She's like, well, what else would you do but have an event where you completely change the entire reality of a whole town and just to save your dying husband.
But also she's starting to lose control of it as well, isn't she? Like various bits of the room are flicking between all the different types of time, the 50s, then the 60s.
Yeah, because that's how it starts. Because the kids go upstairs and she's still in bed, and they're like, "Mom," and he's like, "Nope, no."
Mum's taking a day off. Like she's got a hangover, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and you would expending that much power,
yeah.
but they're like, "Mom, like the game's going crazy," and they're playing a video game, and the controller turns from what they have to like an Atari to Uno cards.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts. And it's just like, great, all right, fine,
And then it turns out that actually she's maybe she's having a bit of a breakdown as well, because she can't actually handle doing anything. It's actually quite dark.
Yeah,
at the beginning
it
of the
is.
episode.
She literally
can't even handle having her kids around. So Agnes decides to pop over and kind of babysit for a day so that she can just kind of unwind and reset.
Well, it's kind of an interesting this episode is just showing how stretched out she is, to the point where not only is the fabric of reality just dissipating around her and she's not able to keep up appearances, but at a certain point when the kids are playing the video game and she turns the TV and it's like the 5-day weather forecast. The 5-day weather forecast is like, it says sunny with a chance of clouds. And
oh, really?
Okay. And then like the news ticker underneath is like, the weather will bring the sun with some clouds possibly. Okay. And it's just that lazy kind of, okay, this is an element that, unless you're really paying attention, doesn't need to have that much detail put into it. So it's just like, okay, you see a 5-day weather forecast and, you see all the elements of it. You see all the infographics and, you see a sun and then you see like a little cloud in front of it. And you see a sun, then you see a sun with a little cloud in it. So it's like, that's as much detail as you need. It's like when people, when you have comic books and you have the main characters in front of a crowd, like the main characters have all the detail and the crowd are just like little blobs in the background. It's like, that's what this world is starting to become. At least from like the standpoint of Wanda breaking down.
That's a detail I'd not seen actually. So,
and do you know what? Now, Tom pointing out like, oh, this seems to be the part where she's slowly breaking down, and then she doesn't want to get out of bed, and Agnes takes the kids away. And I just thought in my head, I was just like, I'm going to look up something, and I looked up the stages of grief. And,
and
they're quite thematic, aren't they? Because you've got the denial where she just won't accept anything's happening. Then she's got anger when she ejects Rambo out of the
house,
out of the hex and out of the house, and fucking just straight out of the ballpark, just all the way out. Bargaining, which I suppose was probably the Halloween episode when she's. Isn't it in the Halloween episode where she's talking to Pietro and it's just like, just let me, I know what I'm doing, just let me do it. So that's sort of like the bargaining, isn't it? And then fourth stage is depression, which is like this episode. And then acceptance comes.
Yeah, I mean,
later. I just realized like they're using that trope. Like,
having listened to the director, Matt Shackman, on Fat Man Beyond a few weeks ago, that is exactly how they set it out.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. They use those kind of classic 5 stages of grief or 7 stages of grief.
5 stages is the one I looked up. So there might be a different one, but 5 is the one I looked up. But it makes total sense. Now you said that, and I was just like, well, hang on a minute. And I just looked up and I was like, oh, yeah, this, okay, cool.
It's actually a really interesting episode, to get real kind of proper in-depth look behind the scenes. Kevin and Mark had Matt Shackman, because he directed all the episodes as well. It wasn't guest directors for each one. He did.
Well, that makes sense actually.
And that's why I think they wanted it to have that kind of overall kind of voice to it.
So you can't really in this sort of series. There's no way you could have a different person doing each episode, because they come in, they go, "What happened? What?
Precisely.
What do you want me to do? What?" It's. Yeah, that's really interesting.
But so go back a couple of episodes on Fat Man Beyond and have a listen to that, because it is really, really interesting. Because they even filmed it in front of a live studio audience.
Yeah, parts of it. Yeah. The early sitcom episodes weren't they? The ones where they're all in the house, I think. So what we were saying, all this canned laughter is actually probably
some
of it's real laughter.
That's the mental thing. Like,
yeah.
Anyway, slightly off topic, but you know.
Yeah.
Then so Vision is at the circus, and he is wondering why the hell, like, you know, he's trying to figure out why this has happened. Basically.
Where did the circus come from?
Yeah,
I mean, I've been saying it, like, you know, it's not until the next episode when people are clamoring for Elizabeth Olsen to, you know, win all the awards for her performance. But in this episode in particular, one of the things I've absolutely loved about the series is just Paul Bettany. Just
he's been
being
brilliant.
Funny as hell, and just his expressions, and that's, you know, like
what I think helps as well.
A series like this
is the fact that it's Vision behaving like this.
Yeah,
like Vision's supposed to be he's
very stoic,
logical,
very,
and
you know,
and then he's just
mechanical and
goofy as anything in this.
Oh my god,
series. It's brilliant.
Like, he gets up and the guy is just like, "Oh, are you the new clown? Well, good, you're already in makep. You know, you're supposed to meet the escape artist, and that's Darcy." And just the way that the whole, here is this guy coming up to Kat Dennings essentially, and it's just like, "Do you remember me from last night?" Our eyes locked. We had a connection, and she's just nope. Like, okay, no, and so it just, like, that whole worked out great. And then she storms away from him, and he finally manages to, like, oh, look at that, and then whoop, and then brings her back. So
because I was trying, while all that was going on, I was like, if he wakes her up, is she going to know who he is? They've never met in the cinematic universe, as far as I know. But obviously she will know who he is, because I think she as well, when they're on the road together, says about him being dead or something, doesn't she?
She gives him, like, the Cliff Notes version of his life prior to Westview.
And tells him what's going on, or what they believe to be going on. And she's just like, "I'm just gonna tell you how it is, man. Like, you're dead. Like,
you died, and then the bad guy had a time stone and then brought you back to life, and then killed you again."
And Wanda saw it every time, and
Wanda killed him the first time, didn't she? She's the one that killed him, and then Thanos brought him back to life and then killed him again.
Quite how she knows all that, I'm not quite sure.
She probably ran into is it
Thor.
Luis from Ant-Man?
Thor probably told her about it.
Like, everybody who's connected to the Avengers gets a debrief from him.
They've all got a WhatsApp group going.
Yeah, exactly.
Mate, Thanos just fucking pulled that stone out of his head, just crushed him.
Crying,
fucked up.
And then
they're
trying to get away from the circus and back into town so that they can effectively stop Wanda.
In the funnel of love funnel cake truck.
Yes. And basically everything is stopping them from getting back. Like, they're in a really slow truck for the first part of it. And then, like, they stop at a crossroads where there's no traffic, but there's a red light, and then there's a group of school kids, and then
there's construction.
There's the construction
workers. There's,
like,
and then once the construction leaves, then somehow this, like, mile long,
it's the fact that when they hit the red light and Vision's like, "I haven't got time for this," and gets out and just flies off.
Yeah.
Well, that's the best part, because he's also taking part in the talking heads, and he's like,
what am I doing?
Maybe want, because at first he's like, well, maybe Wanda doesn't want me, for some reason to come into town. And he's just sitting there, and he just, I'm not amused, and just his whole, just the mannerisms, and then at a certain point they do the talking head again, which has the, like, I love this, and I guess it's just a Paul Bettany mannerism because he does it in the behind the scenes interview where he does like the whole like he scratches his neck, and it's like, but you're a synthetic creature, like you shouldn't have like itches, but also you have metal there, you don't have an ear, so it's just. And then he's just like, well, wait, what am I doing? And he storms up, he takes the microphone off, he gets hit by the boom mic. It's so well done. It's just so good. And that's when he's like, bump this, and he, phases out and leaves Darcy to,
watch the kids
figure out her own way back into town. But yeah, so then we go back to Jimmy and Monica, where we meet her, man on the ground, and they've got this.
And it's not Reed Richards. It's not the Fantastic
No,
Four.
it's just
some other woman that she worked with, or something.
Lady who they've got this vehicle. But I did on their way to meet up to rendezvous with this, person. They're talking about Hayward's. Project involving vision, which is called Project Cataract, which I thought was a pretty interesting name, for vision. But also it gives the whole lot, the cloudy nature of the project itself. So I thought that was a really nice touch.
So then we're at the point where Monica and Jimmy go and find the person with the big space rover, and the space rover is going to be able to get through the hex.
Yes. So this is their way back in. Monica's like, I got this. And then they don't got it.
Not at all.
At all.
They may have been able to... And we're like, no, you can't.
Yeah. I think they may have been able to use it before Wanda went crazy, and because it's like at first when you're first introduced to the idea of the hex and the barrier, it's just like you don't notice it. It's just invisible. It's an invisible barrier. But then Wanda's just like, fuck around and find out. Like she it's okay, now don't screw with this red area.
It's big and like, red. Fuck off.
Yeah, it's fully fortified. So you got some random vehicle? All right, try it.
But then Monica decides that she can, because it comes back, it gets spat back out, doesn't it? And it's half.
Yeah, because half of it comes out as like a panel van or something. And
but Monica believes because she can get through, but she's been warned by Darcy in the last episode that if she goes through again, the mutations to her cells might never recover, and she might even.
Because her cells have already been rewritten twice.
Yeah, because
she's been through the barrier twice.
That's right.
So there's no telling what'll happen.
So we get the thing where Monica decides that she's going to go through on her own through a barrier that a massive space ranger can't get through. Because she's harder.
Yeah, and plus she's been through it.
Yeah, and. So we've got so I think I don't know whether it was ever described, but I guess maybe she thinks that because she's been through twice, there's already like a permeability there. Like,
that's the idea.
So we get the origin of a superhero, the first one in quite a while actually in the MCU. Like we haven't had the origin, like the on-screen origin of a superhero for a very long time. It feels like.
Yeah, I remember because I do that thing where I look stuff up online, so I knew there was theories of what Monica was going to be. I think we talked about it in episodes in the first part anyway, saying that she's going to become some sort of superhero. But I knew and Liz didn't. So I was watching because I thought this would be it, because she does that thing as she's walking through, like her outfits and everything are changing, aren't they? And I think there's probably like a flash of her costume as she's going through as well. I mean, she's practically in a costume anyway because she's in that special space suit, isn't she? The grey suit thing. But I remember. Have I frozen? Everything's frozen for me.
Oh.
Did I stop talking?
I was padding while you were. Yeah. I was padding until you came back, and then you came back all in one go.
Cool. Because I was talking, and then you're both.
So the recording might be interesting.
Yeah, because I was sort of talking about the fact that she looked like she was in a costume already, and then you're both like, just staring. Anyway,
Yeah.
Go on.
So as I was saying, I knew
we've covered all this.
I knew it was coming. Liz didn't. So I was watching Liz this whole time as she comes out the other side of the hex back into Westview with the glowing blue eyes. It's sort of that moment where Liz was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I know.
The other thing about that whole sequence is she's hearing like her mom and Captain Marvel and people like that as she's pushing through as well. And also, like, there's a callback to, I don't know whether they're either Poster film.
The what?
No.
I missed. No, it broke up for me. I missed it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Contact, the Jodie Foster film,
Yes,
where she's
yes,
talking
yes.
to her relatives. There's a whole thing where like the shimmery multi versions of herself, and like there's a bit of a correlation there. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah,
But that might not work in the audio, so I'm going to probably cut that out. So.
no. Yeah, it was only a split second.
Yeah, that was a great sequence.
But yeah, it was cool. It's that like Captain Marvel scene where she gets knocked down and she keeps getting up. It's sort of like that empowerment, sort of like, you got to push through and you're going to do it. And yeah, it's just that thing that Marvel like to do, isn't it?
And then you get that visualization of how she now sees the electromagnetic spectrum and all that kind of thing now. And then she blinks and the eyes go away, and then she's mastered her new power.
She knows what she's doing. Yeah, it's brilliant.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Who needs training?
What's that? I don't know. We probably jumped.
Does she go straight from there to Monica's to Wanda's house? Is there a bit between that?
I mean, the bit between that is where Darcy and Vision are having their fill up, but then after the fact, this is where Monica does go to Wanda's house, comes in and tries to warn Wanda of Hayward's plan for Vision, but Wanda's having none of it. They take it outside, and that's where Agnes, who has been watching the boys all this time, and we find out in an earlier scene that Billy likes it there because it's quiet, because he can't sense Agnes for some reason. And so then Agnes sees the kerfuffle outside and then intervenes and pulls Wanda away right before Monica tells her the big thing about and almost gets to Wanda because she's tapping and she's relating to, it's just like, I get it. I've lost someone too. And
it's not even that they're relating on a person to person thing. It's that she's kind of blasted her with her psychokinetic stuff, and Monica's taken it and has proved that she's superpowered as well. And there's another level.
That too. Yeah. So, so here's this thing. And then Agnes comes between them, takes Wanda, and it's just like, you best be, on your way. And then Wanda goes into Agnes's house and it's like, where are the kids? Oh, they're probably playing in the basement.
Because, that's not creepy.
That's not creepy at all. Not at all creep-tastic basement. And this is where the big reveal that Agnes was actually Agatha Harkness.
Yes.
It's like, and then we get this really amazing sequence.
Kind of Monsters ripoff.
Yeah, it's just...
it's so good.
But the Agatha All Along theme song is one of the best things about the whole series.
It's so good.
I mean, it's an instant earworm. It's now in my head, and I'm gonna be humming it for the rest of the day and maybe into tomorrow as well.
But yeah, it's I forgot what I was going to say. It's not important.
But you find out all the bits in which Agatha shows up and she's kind of like she's winking to the camera and like bits that have happened through various episodes, like for example Pietro turning up. She's in the background kind of doing all the witchy magic behind him.
Puppeteering.
She's also the interviewer that that Monica
during the talking head
where they're like, what was it that do you ever...
It's like, do you think you deserve do you think
this?
maybe you deserve this? And she's like,
you're not supposed
to talk.
Yeah. But yeah, and she's behind that whole part where the neighbours sort of chainsawing the brick wall we were like, what the fuck is going on there? Oh, because she had power over him and he was just doing that. But yeah, the Agatha all along is just... Yeah, it's just so fantastic, that bit, isn't it?
And the fact that Catherine Hahn, who plays Agatha / Agnes, like she's the one who does the main. It was Agatha all along,
and I killed Sparky too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just so
amazing,
bizarre,
amazing.
But I loved it.
But yeah, so she's got like down in the basement. There's this weird purple magic-y stuff, and the basement is this huge kind of antechamber or like cavern with rooms and stuff all over. And she's got the Darkhold, and the Darkhold is a book from the MCU, but it's been in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and what's the Outcasts or Runaways or something. It's been in that as well. So
and it's missing from Doctor Strange.
I think it is in Doctor Strange as well.
Yeah.
But that's what I was going to say earlier. The whole part of where it was Agatha all along, like there was, I suppose all of me was going, who the fuck's Agatha? Why is this a big deal? I have no idea who Agatha Harkness is.
And then we find out at the beginning of the next episode as well.
Yeah.
But there is another the advert in this one is for the Nexus antidepressants.
Yes.
Yeah. Because the world doesn't revolve around you. Yeah. Or does it?
It doesn't, but it does. The Nexus, of course, being the nexus of all realities, is like a thing in the MCU where it's a bridge to other dimensions and stuff. Like it's a point on Earth where you can...
Yeah, which I imagine it will be explained in great detail in Doctor Strange.
Yes.
The next Doctor Strange film, the Nexus.
Which means we might find Man-Thing in there as well, because he's the guardian of the nexus of all realities.
Oh, really?
Which is this big kind of like, he's a kind of, well...
Have you watched The Good Place, Tom?
No.
Okay. Because I was going to say, is he the guy that likes the frogs? holds the keys for all the doorways. See, Andrew knows.
It works for people who've seen it.
Yeah. You've got all the pathways. In the Good Place, it's like the doorway from the afterlife. Well, it's like the offices of the afterlife, though, isn't it? It's the corporate part of the afterlife to Earth. There's like a doorway, and there's a guy that just sits there at a desk who likes frogs.
Okay.
he's got
the only key to this door.
He's Man-Thing in Marvel is kind of like Swamp Thing. He's like this kind of swamp god, but he's basically just the kind of gatekeeper to the Nexus.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so
or is it Jerry?
Yes. No, sorry. You've slightly froze again. I just caught it. Yeah.
He's a Jerry.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. He's a Jerry, yes.
Oh my God.
Stay away from those processed foods.
No, seriously.
So like you're saying, we find out Agatha's origin, basically, or not even her origin, is it? We find out more about her at the start of episode 8, which
previously
like the extent of her power and how,
she's basically being put up on a pyre, and I was like, oh cool, it's the Salem witch trials. And then we find out
it was
kinda
yeah
but it's not really kinda.
It was in Salem though, wasn't it?
It was Salem 1693. Yeah. So it was around that time, which is a really nice misdirection, because they're like, are you a witch? And she's like, yes. And it's like, bitch, prove it. Like, you're not a good witch.
That's what I mean. It's like Salem witch trials, kinda, but it's
Well, because
You got to prove that you are rather than prove that you're not.
Yeah, well, the moment they put her at the stake and they like wave their hand and she's got this like blue thing around, I was like, wait,
yeah,
what is it?
Yeah.
It's witches.
It's like it's a reverse one. It's just like you're masquerading as a witch. Yeah. You're just a normal person. To the death. I was like, wait, is that what's happening here?
But it's because she's essentially they're putting her on trial. It's her coven putting her on trial, isn't it? Because she's basically been breaking like the witch's code and meddling with dark magic. It's that sort of thing, isn't it? Where she's been using magic that she's not supposed to without supervision, sort of thing. Like she's been casting spells outside of Hogwarts and she's only a year, like a first year. That sort of thing. Almost.
I get that. Even
love it. Even. Yeah.
But yeah, so basically they then put her to death effectively by casting magic at her, and then she absorbs all their magic and kills them and dies them.
And dies them. Dies them a lovely shade of dead.
Even her own mother, who is the coven leader.
Yeah,
because they're that's it, because they start casting their spell, don't they? And then she sort of takes control of it, and then just rather than just absorbing it, she's like actually taking all of their power,
like their soul,
sucking it out of them.
But her mother has the crown as well
and dying. The Scarlet Witch crown,
like a witch queen or something.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. And you're like, witches with crowns. Where's this going?
I do want to say though that prior to this whole scene, because the whole episode opens up with the kind of quick Agatha backstory, I did like the touch where when you see the Marvel Studios logo pop up with the dun 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 dun, dun and normally it's just red, it turns purple, and then and it's like, okay, cool.
I like when they do. It's quite like how the kind of the Warner Brother logo tends to change with the type of film that it's in front of.
Yeah,
like Marvel doesn't often do that, but they did for this one.
Yeah,
which I thought was
they did that at the first episode. They did the black and white. I watched Endgame last week, and they just a shade of black.
Yeah,
and it's just like, okay, I like when they do that. It's very subtle, but it's like, okay, cool.
So we see her backstory, and then we go back into the basement where Agatha is holding Wanda. Wanda can't cast spells because there's glyphs up, meaning that only the witch that casts the glyphs can practice her magic in there. She's got Miss Senor Scratchy, the rabbit, and then there's a weird thing with like a cricket that then turns into a bird that is then eaten by.
Well, because Agatha is trying to figure out. I mean, the whole point of this episode is Agatha's trying to figure out the source of Wanda's magic and how she managed to just basically ensnare an entire town.
Bearing in mind that she isn't a witch, she's just inherited a bit, like she's like,
well, that and because that's where she's like, where did you learn your stuff? How did you come about this ability?
And
because that's where she starts showing like your basic magic. You're again to reference Harry Potter. It's like, okay, this is the spell that you use to control something. This is the spell that you use to immobilize something. This is the spell that you use. And she's and the whole thing with the cricket was, this you can change the appearance of something, but from Agatha's perspective, we've just been introduced to her like mojo magic. She just killed an entire coven, but here she is doing like little parlor tricks in front of Wanda. And so she wants that power. She wants to, tap into it. And it's like, how did you do this? Because at a certain point, that the whole point of that cricket / butterfly moth thing that she does is that at a certain point, even Agatha's range falters.
Yeah.
And so the bug turns back into what it originally is. So how did you do this? And that's where we go into, tries to pump her for information. We find out, how she's been meddling with things a little bit more than the whole sneak that we got, the little, the peek that we got in the previous episode where we find out, about Pietro. And I find it funny because, fake Pietro or Fietro. And she's like, she makes the comment where it's like necromancy is easy to do, but it's hard to do when the dead body's on another continent and it's full of holes. So she had to do it, what needed to be done. And then because she's not getting information, she's like, all right, well, what we're going to do is we're going to tap into your memories and I'm going to find out one way or another.
This was a brilliant episode. Such a great episode.
It's really, really clever. They sort of like Ghost of Christmas Past and like they're going dipping into the pensive and things like that, aren't they? They're just going through her memories to find out how she did what she did. And they go right back to the beginning, don't they? Where you actually see the bomb. Well, no, they go back to the beginning to see her family in Sokovia first, isn't it? Where they're, and this is where you discover Wanda's love of sitcoms, because Dad comes home and then they get to choose a movie or they get to choose something to watch, and then she
basically buys and sells like hooky DVD.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Looky, man. I don't know if you're aware of that term, Andrew.
It used to be a thing over here where, like, if you're sat in a pub, someone would come in with like a load of DVDs in their coat.
They'd be like, look, I think looky, like call him looky man.
Yeah.
comes into the bars with his box of DVDs. So Wanda's dad was a looky man, basically. But he was going around selling like all the American movies, wasn't he? The blockbusters and things like that. But they had
and it was primarily
collection,
shows, which then you see Malcolm in the Middle, Dick Van Dyke Show, you see Bewitched. The Office, you see Bewitched, and you see all of those. I was like, okay, cool. Like we've got this anchor now, so everything's pretty tied up in all the references.
Yeah, so Wanda's tapped into a thing that she loves, like her past, and just something to ground her to reality is probably not the right phrase to use.
It's a comfort. It's one of the last few comforts that she has, and so that's where you escape to, and so it's her pick, and so she chooses Dick Van Dyke Show. Season 2, episode 21, It May Look Like a Walnut, which is an interesting, it's interesting because it's like, again, it goes back to the whole theme of things are not what they appear and this and that. And this is the night. And it's such a, like, this episode is so heartbreaking. And like this scene in particular, because again, she finds comfort in watching the TV with her family. She finds comfort in these sitcoms, but while watching this particular episode, one of her favorite episodes, this is where, and just the way that they do it is just so sudden, and it's like, whoa. And you get that black screen because all of a sudden there's an explosion, the kids are thrown forward, and there's a black screen that's held like a second too long. And you're just like, what's happened? And that's where, because you get the story from Age of Ultron where, they spent 2 days in front of this bomb, this missile, and it's a Stark Industries. And, and so, so they spent 2 days and right before Wanda's about to do something, she reaches out her hand. Agatha pulls our Wanda back and she's like, what did you do? Did you cast a spell? And it's and Wanda's like, no, it just turned out to be a dud. And this gives a little bit more light to the whole, where it's like, was it a dud? Did she, did she already, inadvertently,
she had some sort of like latent ability that came to the fore. Because she's one of her mutant abilities is, it's like a chance thing, isn't it? Where like she can control chance. So one of her things would be that if a bomb fell in front of her, she would be able to control chance to malfunction the bomb forever, so that it would never go off, because that's one of the things.
And I think that's when Agatha is interrogating her even further after the fact, I think she does mention like a chance charm or something, and
Agatha's basically like, bullshit. You're lying.
The fuck! Come on, man.
Give me something. Yeah.
And so this is where, after you find, okay, we're not getting any more information, we're going to go to another memory, and this is where we jump forward after Wanda and Pietro have grown up. This is where they join Hydra. They join the whole, the experimentation, and we get the scene where, Wanda comes in contact with the Soul Stone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That particular scene was the start of the experimentations on them, wasn't it? And
yeah,
what I love, and it's another moment, as you were saying earlier, Tom, like Contact, that film. This is another one of those moments, isn't it?
That's true. Yeah.
Where when she goes in and she's sort of confronted with the Mind Stone, something happens to her. But when it goes back to the guys in the office, who are observing, they're like, "What happened?" She just fell over. And
it cuts from like she's standing up to she's on the floor. Like they don't see the Mind Stone break out of the scepter.
Yeah. Did you see? I saw it, and I don't know if Liz saw it, but in that whole thing when it glows and glows and glows, did you see the silhouette?
The Scarlet Witch.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh good. Yeah. I didn't know how quickly it happened, if I was just like really observant or if it was that obvious.
It was like 5 minutes, Ant.
Oh,
like they stuck on that thing for like she even said, "Hello, I'm the Scarlet Witch. Nice to meet you."
Brilliant.
Ant's version of it was more like the Hydra guys. He understood.
Like I said, it was a contact. It was like a moment like Jodie Foster's Contact, all right? More so than I realised.
And then the next bit after that as well, she takes her to the bit where she goes to find Vision's body, which is what we've seen.
So the part after that is immediately after the events of Ultron, and Pietro has died.
Oh yes, sorry,
it's the night, and so this is the biggest like scene that got memed heavily after it happened, because it's a very sweet scene, but it's one of those where it's just like, okay, you just put the right words together and whatever. But this is the first time Wanda and Vision were alone. They were at the Avengers compound, and she had just lost everything that she knew. She was alone, and Vision is left, to watch over her, and they have this really nice connective moment, because he's still, like in at the end of Age of Ultron, he's like, well, I was born yesterday, and so he's still, he's still learning, and in each memory up to this point, there has been a sitcom on. So even in the Hydra compound, she found, there was a blank TV screen, but because of her connection with the Soul Stone, which Agatha talks about, that latent ability probably would have gone away, due to age and no use, but the Soul Stone, charged it back up and amplified it. And so, in her head, she's watching sitcoms and on a TV that it doesn't work.
That's right.
And so in this scene, she's watching Malcolm in the Middle, and it's a classic Bryan Cranston scene where he, taps a nail into a thing, and he's like, great. And then the whole roof falls in on him. And it's this really nice connective scene where, Vision, again, doesn't understand anything but what he's programmed and information. Like, he knows things, but he doesn't understand, the context of them.
Yeah.
And so she's telling him, it's funny because of this, and they're connecting, and they have this moment where, he says, what is grief if not love persevering? And it's it's a very sweet moment. And then it's punctuated by him, him making this very sweet comment, and then turning to the screen and laughing.
Yeah.
Further connecting the two of them. And it's again, it's tying the two of them together. And then from there we go into we go to where Wanda has come back from the blip.
Yeah.
And this is where she storms the sword compound to retrieve Vision's body.
One of my favorite the memes of that, what is grief if not love persisting thing, is what if beef if not cow persisting?
Okay.
Because there were loads of them, weren't there? Loads of people started posting these things.
Oh yeah, well, there was the Twitter meme that went around where somebody posted, and in that moment, several screenwriters went "fuck," and so like you saw the screen cap, and then the screen cap would change to like other different. I did one too, where I took the whole caption of, and in that moment, several screenwriters were in, they said "fuck," and I included a screen cap of Guardians of the Galaxy and I am Groot.
That's a good one.
But yeah, so we're in the sword compound, and come to find out, things didn't necessarily happen the way that we were led to believe they happened.
Is Hayward being a dickwood? Yes,
I think he is.
Yes, yeah,
massive, yeah.
Yep.
He basically tells her that there's no way that she can bury him. Because that's what she wants to do. She wants to give him a burial.
Yeah. She just wants closure, doesn't she?
Yeah. And he's like, there's no way I can let you put $10 billion worth of vibranium in the ground. Which,
Yes, and fair enough.
Then he was like, it's because he keeps calling Vision it as well, which she doesn't like. But it is an asset. Like, it is a thing that was
Or is
created.
he just being respectful and you're not assuming somebody's pregnant?
No, not at this point.
No, he's just
we
being
know
a
him now.
Right, okay, cool.
It is being a dickwad.
So she actually kind of accepts that. She goes down there and she kind of tries to, it looks like she's going to do the kind of stealing of the body. And then she kind of puts her hand on him and she's like, I can't feel you anymore. And then leaves without taking the body.
Ouch. Yeah.
Gets in a car where there is the title deeds to a plot somewhere in New Jersey. Which she goes and visits, and then that's like we find out that isn't Vision. This is why he can't remember dying, is because she has created him out of the part of her that is the Mind Stone. So like, she's creating everything, and everything else is coming out red, but he's coming out yellow. Which is
brilliant. It's brilliant. Yeah, because it's the deeds,
which could also explain why he becomes like he separates himself from the rest of Westview, like why he's able to, because everything else is cloaked in red, everything else is cloaked by that red part, whereas Vision comes out of the Mind Stone, that's illustrated by the yellow energy that's coming out of Wanda. So it's a separate energy that's created him, even though he is connected to this world.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that, like you say, those deeds, it's for the empty plot, isn't it? When she ends up standing, where it's sort of like the outline of a house.
Foundations,
yeah. And do we see at that point? Yeah, he has drawn on it, hasn't he? It says this our forever home or something. Or
that's right.
Where we'll grow old together. I can't remember the exact wording. It's probably written here. Which
to grow old in.
Yes,
V.
That's it.
Yeah, and it's encircled by a heart. But one thing, you see her driving into town, and Westview is sad.
It's a dump, isn't it?
It's a dump. It's an absolute dump. I mean, you see people. You see a lot of the primary, secondary characters. You see Dottie. You see Deborah Jo Rupp's character just sitting at a because at this point, in the earlier episodes, you found out a little bit about the characters that have a lot more to do with Wanda and Vision, and the character of Deborah Jo Rupp. I mean, her story is that her husband died, and so Wanda brought him back, and you all these different things, and you find that the delivery driver, the UPS guy, that the mailman, is a middle-aged food delivery driver, and all these things are just everything was kind of ramshackle. I mean, it's a quiet old town. You know, a lot
of the kind of shops are boarded up. And it's like it's been left behind.
That bandstand's really sort of decrepit as well, isn't it? But that's like a central feature of the town, isn't it? The bandstand. I mean, in like earlier episodes, that's where people would gather. That's where the talent show was, and that's where everyone sits. In the Halloween episode, everyone's gathered around there, and that's where you've got like stuff. But she even drives by the pool where she first meets Monica, and even that is just, you know, there's no care to it. It's a swamp basically. You've got I think, if I'm not mistaken, like the fence is torn down, and like even one of the pool loungers is like in the pool. So it gives us, it's really interesting to kind of give this, it conflicts with you for a little bit, because it's like, Wanda is controlling these people against their will, but she's giving them,
she's created a nicer,
more colorful, a nicer environment.
And it kind of shows that it's come out of grief, but there's a kind of rebuilding and a kind of what she might imagine is a positive way.
I think it comes up at some point is like she's giving them, like you're saying, like you've got the old delivery driver, you've got the woman who's lost husband, like her defense is that she's made it better for everyone. She's given everyone everything they wanted. Like, you know, she's not trapping them, she's giving them a better life.
I think that's the argument in episode 9, isn't it?
Yes. Is that in the later episode?
Because I think at the end of
bargaining, isn't it? With the grief.
And this episode kind of comes to an end just after we see this. She's created the hex around the town, and Agatha's like, "Oh, you're using like chaos magic. You're the Scarlet Witch. Like the prophecies."
That's when I texted you guys and said she said the thing.
Because up until this point as well, like in an earlier episode, Hayward's like, "Does she have any special nicknames that, you know, like any of the other Avengers?" And people are like, "No, she doesn't. No one has ever called her a stupid name." And you're like, "Oh, she hasn't been called anything, has she?"
Only the stupid people who watch the movies have called her a stupid name.
Us,
because we all know. But this is where she's actually given a name.
And there was actually the end of episode 8, the one before, was the first one to have an after or mid-credit sequence as well.
Yes.
Where Pietro finds Monica snooping into the Snooper's Gonna Snoop line, where she's looking into the basement and then, you know, sacks her off. Whereas the one on this one was the one where I'm like, there's one episode to go and they're just revealing that there's a new Vision. White Vision has been made somehow by Hayward, and he's got a drone that had been kicked out of the hex, which he used to power up White Vision,
because it had the hex magic in it.
Because that's why he wanted the Vision that was in the hex, because he could get hold of whatever it was that was powering him to put into the new weaponized Vision.
That's it.
He's got a little bit of the source power from Scarlet Witch now.
If he'd have just realised early on, he could have just plugged it into the hex wall and he'd have been fine.
One of those little like smart USB.
USB-C would have been able to manage that power.
Because then you'd have that awkward bit where it's just like, oh, I put it in wrong. Hold on.
No, it's still wrong. Right, got it. Yeah,
I get it.
I
always get my USBs right on the third time.
It's not fitting. It must be the wrong way around. Oh no, that definitely is the wrong way around. So the first time was right.
And there's no struggle the third time. It's straight. That's why I use USB-C. It's universal. It doesn't. They call it universal serial bus. Fuck off. It's not.
No, it ain't.
It's got a specific way around anyway.
But so that's the end. That's the big cliffhanger for the final to kind of suck you into the final episode. Is like there's a new Vision, and they're going to send him in probably.
White Vision looks badass. He's got like
looks cool
blue eyes, doesn't he? Like
blue eyes and like a just looks like a Mac basically.
It just
but looks Apple Vision.
Looks weird.
Eye Vision.
Like he's not. It's not quite Paul Bettany but it is. It's just something
that,
off.
I was just about to say the same thing because I was just like, this is Paul Bettany, but it doesn't look like Paul Bettany. It doesn't look like it's the same actor playing the same character
with the same people doing the visual effects.
Like,
it's not right.
Look,
Uncanny Valley is weird. I don't get it. It's the same guy, but the series finale, episode 9, was just, mate. That was just like fucking epic, like the whole thing.
Oh,
I don't even know what order things happened in. It was just like a whole, just like cacophony of.
Where you've got right at the start, Agnes appears in her witchy outfit
with the boys on leashes.
With the boys on with some magic rope tied around their necks. But then our vision, or Wanda's vision, kind of pops up.
Well, because the whole thing with Agnes is that she's tethered the boys and she's threatening them mainly to goad Wanda into using her powers, so that she can in turn absorb the powers as much as possible, to try to to absorb the chaos magic, and then Wanda hits her with a car. And there's a great like homage to Wizard of Oz, where you see the boots, and that's where White Vision comes in and just like Vision, and there's this like moment where you're just oh, this is very sweet, and she's like Wanda, and then nope, he's trying to kill her.
That's right, yeah. There's almost like you think, oh well, he recognizes her in a way because he's said her name, but then it's just kind of almost confirmation of target, isn't it? Basically,
yeah.
Is that Wanda? Vision? Yep, cool. Bye.
Okay. But then Wanda's vision comes in, and the Visions fight, which was kind of cool.
Yeah,
the Vision fights were really, really good. What I loved about every time, like from this episode, I think it was every time Wanda uses her magic to attack Agnes, and she absorbs a little bit, her hands are starting to go black. Like you start to see the decay on her body. That's really cool. It's like a health bar, isn't it?
Yeah. You can only use so much of this magic before you're done.
Yeah, and it's this episode where fake Pietro, or Pietro as you like to call him, has Monica sort of tied up in his room, doesn't he? Or trapped in his bedroom.
Yeah.
Like the actor. And this is where we find out who he actually is. I
thought it was really cheap, and I wasn't happy with it at all.
I wasn't particularly happy with it.
It's basically a dick joke. Like you set up all this intrigue, and it's oh no, my name's Ralph Boner.
Well, so I thought about that, and I was fine with it, because I also, again, we're talking about the series, and I'm gonna keep running this into the ground, but the whole idea of the series is nothing is what it appears to be. Nothing is, and it's a cheap joke, but I have to wonder if it was a cheap joke that could possibly, that is also a misdirection, where it's like
it's a cheap joke, or is it?
Or is it? And to touch on that real quick, all the articles that came out, there was an article that came out prior to this episode being released where the showrunners were like, we expect our fans to be somewhat disappointed in this episode based off of all of the speculation, based off of all the predictions. And there were some members of the show that were like, we didn't expect you to think that Doctor Strange would show up. Like, no, fuck you. You did this for a reason. Like you tapped Evan Peters because everyone is gearing up for
multiverse,
the combination of Marvel and X-Men, and don't say that, because that full.
Sorry, mate.
Full damn well. Which again, our previous conversation. When you say, "Oh, I know a guy," it's just like, "Oh, is it Reed Richards? Is it one of the Fantastic Four?" And you're like, maybe.
Well, this was one of the things that Mac Chapman interview brought up as well. They were like, when people started talking about Fantastic Four after the aerospace engineer thing, Was that like, were you definitely, was that ever a hint for the Fantastic Four? And he was like, no. I was really disappointed because people started thinking about this thing, and I thought, oh God, they're going to be really disappointed that it's just going to be whoever that woman is, whatever her name was.
But that, like I think Andrew's pointed out, is that's bullshit, because for them to say that's bullshit, because it's like, otherwise they wouldn't go, oh, I know an aerospace engineer. They'd say, oh, I've got this friend I used to work with, she's really cool. Like, then people might have thought it was Sue, but it's but it's the fact that I know a guy, and it's I get your point, but is it saying that fake Pietro was just an actor called Ralph Boner? It's like, that does seem like you fuckers, you just got a hopes up for no reason. But then there's that thing, like you're saying, it's all about nothing is what it seems. So they're saying that now, but actually in future,
which also
I don't know, it might not be.
When you look at it from the perspective, Tom, you mentioned earlier that they were pretty much running on like a South Park schedule with the finale. How much of they weren't able to do it, but what if they added that part in to it's just like oh, he's just some random character, and all the speculations were a Boner move. Like, it just it feels like something that somebody screwing around with the because that may also have been something that Agatha also had something to do with, because changing his name, or putting something in there where it's like, oh, this is his name may be Ralph, but his I don't know, but in watching the episodes yesterday, and when right before Wanda goes down into the basement and we're introduced to Agnes as Agatha, I'm looking at the set design, and I'm like, here is a, let's say, mid-30s something guy who is a struggling actor. Is he like, you look at all the living room set, and it's an older woman's, like, it's an older person's like couch. It's an older person, like, did he inherit like his grandmother's house, or is there something else that just wasn't necessarily significant, but it was also like, is this guy living alone? Is this guy whatever? But I
assume he's living with his parents. That's what I assumed.
And
maybe two of the other characters are his parents.
Okay, I mean,
because
just some, because I think Monica finds a power bill, and it's addressed to Ralph. So it's like,
good point.
I don't know. So that kind of sat a little uneasy with me, where I'm like, okay, we're given this as kind of a cheap joke, but again, I call bullshit. They knew exactly what they were doing, which is fine. Like, I'm they were worried that fans would be disappointed. I wasn't in this finale. It was very well done, and I'm a Whovian, so I go through every series of Doctor Who, and I'm just like, oh, it could be this, oh, it could be this, and most of the time I'm wrong, but also, like, that's the beauty of, first of all, you've got an audience if they're trying to get one step ahead, where it's just like, I don't mind being surprised, but I also want to show that I'm paying attention, show that I'm invested in this. So the investment is, wouldn't it be great if this character showed up? Wouldn't it be great if the story went this direction? And again, like with Doctor Who, like, there are so many things that just, and I'm used to that. Like, it's not disappointment, it's I get my brain working, and if I don't get the story that I want, I'll just write it. But or I'll write my own theories and then see what comes to play and be like, that was fun and whatever. But it also starts the conversations. I mean, take last episode, take this episode. It got us revved up, and it'd be like, now we got to watch the last 4 episodes. But where this finale is concerned, I was not at all disappointed. I kind of snorted at the whole Ralph Boner thing, because it's like, okay, because again, it focuses on the idea that here we are speculating on these external, the exterior characters, whereas the series is, like, from the title itself, is about Wanda and Vision, so they are the main characters that we need to focus on. So why are we wanting to pull in these other characters, which would be fine, and like you mentioned earlier, Tom, it introduced a new character that has a connection. All the characters that we saw, Jimmy coming back, Darcy coming back, and Monica being introduced. These are secondary characters to the overall story. They're given importance, but they're still secondary characters. So bringing in Stephen Strange would have, I think, diluted the impact
overshadows it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so I get it. And also, I understand the idea of this series is to also give more padding to those who really, are clamoring for something Marvel. But, for the casual moviegoer, they want it to be, okay, to continue with the MCU films, you really only need, like, the next, Endgame, cool, the Spider-Man, cool. The next film is going to be Doctor Strange. That's really all you need to keep up with it. Because, like we've mentioned before, the Marvel universe is so saturated with details and characters that it's, like, hard to keep up. This is just a nice side story to give more meat to a couple characters who were overshadowed by your Captain Americas, your Thors, your Iron Mans.
And I think in the entire MCU to this point, I think Wanda only had something like 25 minutes of screen time in the whole of, like, I don't know how many movies she was in, like 3, 4?
Age of Ultron.
The other Avengers films.
Civil War.
She's in right. Winter Soldier. Was she in Winter Soldier?
I don't think so.
No.
No, it was literally,
It's literally because we've been watching Marvel films like 2 a day for God knows, like, the last few weekends, so I forget which ones we've watched.
Yeah, I think it's Ultron, Civil War, and then the two
Infinity War and
Infinity Saga ones.
Yeah.
So in 4 films, she had like 20, 25 minutes on screen. So yeah, it's about padding out those characters, giving them a little more heft, and actually showing those kind of backstories as well. Like, we've heard the Sokovia story, like, of how she was under the bed. Now let's see it, and it adds in more detail that, like, that fuels the TV show that you're watching. It's a really interesting way of doing things, I think. And also, bringing back people like Darcy and Jimmy and people.
But yeah, so that, it was a cheap joke, but it was one of those where it was like it blew out the candle on that.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, the whole purpose, it blew out the candle, but you have the rest of the cake. It's like, you have that build up. But now we can remove the candle and have a piece of cake, which the piece of cake is the show itself. Let's enjoy this nice thing that we've been enjoying all along. So we get, Pietro is now Ralph Boner, and Monica ends up
she can see
breaking
the magic
him out of the
emanating from the bracelet,
from the necklace he's wearing.
And
so she breaks him out of that, and so that concludes that part of the story. So nice little tie there. Then we go back outside of the hex, where they found Jimmy, and they've got him, and he bluffs Hayward with the whole, like, I'll have FBI agents, within the hour. He manages to swipe a phone, and he's like, "Hey, Cliff, Jimmy, can you get here within the hour?"
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
but there's a great touch because he's in handcuffs, and it's the little touch, and he manages to break himself out, and he holds the hands. He's like, "Flourish," which is again another nice Ant-Man touch. It's just, it's a fun little thing. So, but then we go back to Agatha and Wanda. They're back in. They're now in. Vision and White Vision have flown off, and Wanda and Agatha have flown off, and they're now
the
in
town square,
the center of town square. Yeah.
So Agatha's scene, in the town
and so
square.
Agatha's telling her about the Darkhold, the Book of the Damned, and basically giving Wanda kind of the summary of the Scarlet Witch and the prophecy and everything.
But she also frees all of the minds of the townsfolk as well, who start to kind of converge on Wanda as well.
It's like a zombie horde, isn't it?
Yeah, it was quite Marvel zombie-ish.
Yeah.
But they were like, just let us go. Like, you're torturing us. Like, I want to see my kids. Like stuff like that. Like, well,
you find out that here we are, like, Wanda believes she's giving everyone a better life, but you find out it's like, well, when you sleep, we have your nightmares. We feel your pain. And it's just, and at a certain point, she can't take it, and she ends up, basically mentally strangling them. She's like, shut up, stop, I can't take this. And then she breaks them out of it, and then one of the characters is like, if you're not going to let us go, then just let us die.
Yeah.
And I mean,
yeah.
And so that's when Wanda's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna let you go.
She's like, yeah, I'm going to open up the hex, let you go. But then because she opens up the hex, that allows Hayward in and all his troops. But it also means that the kids and Vision start to disintegrate as well.
And so there's a great aerial, fight between the Visions, and there's this great, I mean, they're, White Vision is like, you shouldn't be here, and Vision's like, I know. I agree.
And actually, the greatest thing about this fight is that it's not a fight anymore. It's a reason,
the reason debate where they're sort of arguing over the classic thing that I think you two had a conversation about it on Twitter like a week beforehand. Yeah, it's the old it's the old Trigger's broom conundrum, isn't it?
It's the ship of Theseus. Sorry, I'm in the middle of Assassin's Creed.
Okay.
So I'm all the names are blurring into
all the Ocles and all the Eseuses.
So it's called Ship of Theseus, but we prefer it as to the Trigger's broom.
Trigger's broom. If you replace the head of the broom and the shaft of the broom enough times, is that still the same broom?
Yeah.
And that's
funny
because what this argument was, wasn't it? And the thing is, you both had this conversation. I can't remember who brought it up, and you said, it's like this. But it wasn't to do with this, was it?
Andrew had posted something from Doctor Who, wasn't it?
It was actually a Douglas Adams quote.
Oh, that's
because it was similar to the Ship of Theseus, but it was like a library, and it's and the idea was that when the wood starts to rot, then they replace it, and and they're like, well, this is the same building, and like, but it's not like, and so it's that whole idea of it's the essence of the building. While the supplies to the materials to keep it up, they change throughout time. And it was funny because then Tom, does the Trigger's broom, which then, I'm like, well, they also did the exact same thing on Doctor Who in Capaldi's first episode.
And then literally the next week it's on WandaVision.
And it's like, okay, so we've got this library, we've got Trigger's broom, we've got Capaldi's broom, now we've got the Ship of Theseus.
And I think I like probably around the same time, because of you two sharing that conversation and you did Trigger's broom, I showed it to Chloe, who'd never seen it before. So then we were talking about, like, her and I were having this conversation just about, it's like when people, and she was like, well, it is the same broom. I was like, but what if, and I did the whole thing, like, if we took your memories and put them into a computer, is that computer now you? And she was like, because I said, what is it that makes, and then this happened in WandaVision. I'm just like, what is going on? Like,
something was in the air that week.
It was really weird,
But so White Vision and Wanda's Vision have this kind of like showdown in a library.
Yeah.
But we're talking about, so
Yeah.
it goes back to the
It goes back to the library, yeah.
Um,
But yeah, so essentially it's for anyone that didn't watch it and doesn't know what this thing is, and it is, like we're saying, it's the ship of Theseus. It's like the library. It's like if you replace all of the wood on a ship, is it the same ship sort of thing, isn't it? So they're having that debate. It's like, which vision is the real vision? Is it the one with the memories, or is it the actual physical body?
Is White Vision is the original Vision, right?
Right.
That they just reassembled,
put back together.
But he doesn't have the Mind Stone, so it's
physically he's Vision.
Yeah, but mentally, Wanda's Vision has all the memories.
No.
He doesn't have the memories.
It's emotionally, and he has the tide of the Mind Stone.
Yeah.
But the White Vision's objective is to destroy the Vision, and our Vision is like, well, we are both Vision, and we are both not Vision, and it's that whole thing. I request elaboration, and it's like, boy.
Yeah.
We're gonna stop this fight to have a nice civilized conversation.
And then White Vision goes, good point, and fucks off.
Well, no, because he downloads his kind of consciousness into
so he
White
becomes
Vision. So White Vision is now
Vision.
The Vision, because we don't know, because he flies away and we don't see him again, but he's out there.
He doesn't.
He says, "I am Vision." He pulls the Iron Man and he goes, "I am Vision," and then flies off. It's like, okay. So does he destroy himself? Is he going to? Is Paul Bettany going to continue playing the Vision, but in a slightly different way? It's an interesting one.
Is it still going to be Wanda's husband?
Yeah, because he's got now the emotional kind of.
Yeah, because you see his eyes change.
Yeah.
But the eyes change to a more.
Here's the thing now. It's like, so he has all the emotion and feeling of Wanda's Vision, but to Wanda, it's not her vision.
Yeah.
Right.
So how's that dynamic going to work?
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. But again, we don't see what happens there. He just flies off, leaving Wanda's Vision to go and
next time we'll see him, he'll be in a Colosseum on some planet with Jeff Goldblum, sort of like seeing a fight. I mean, that's what happened last time. Someone flew off and
that's true,
seen for a film.
We'll be in Guardians 3.
He's our Vision.
Oh God. Anyway, yeah.
So yeah, he flies back to the town square, reconvenes with Wanda, and then the kids decide, we need to help out mom and dad, and so they get back. They're all together. There's mom, dad, and
this is where Hayward rolls in as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've kind of, so they're basically, Hayward rolls in, Agatha's still an issue, and they do like the whole family pose thing, the whole Incredibles family pose. Right. And it's at this point where the Visions fly off, because they're kind of triangulated by White Vision, Agatha, and then Sword. And so then the Visions go off, Wanda confronts Agatha, and then the kids are left to, deal with the military. And so Billy freezes them mentally, and then Tommy goes through and fucks with them, changes up their things, steals a pair of sunglasses and a hat, which is a nice homage to the Sweet Dreams scene from X-Men Apocalypse, where he goes through that and he actually steals the hat. But the only member of Sword that isn't affected is Hayward. And so he comes out and he's about to, shoot a gun at a kid when Monica shows up and absorbs the energy from the bullets. And it's a really cute scene because, one of the bullets accidentally, flies past and Billy stops it. And she's like, "I like your powers." He's like, "Thanks. I like your outfit." Like, just, so it's a pretty nice, and Monica's getting, you're seeing the extent the further extent of Monica's abilities, which is pretty cool. Hayward tries to run off, but Darcy, pins him in the truck.
Yeah,
she comes out of
And
nowhere.
so-
She finally got
Yeah.
through that fucking intersection, didn't she?
Yeah.
Like, she's been stuck there for 2 episodes.
So Hayward is neutralized. The Visions have had their Ship of Theseus discussion, and White Vision fucks off. And then we get back to the firefight in the sky between Agatha and Wanda, and basically, Wanda's just like, I don't want this power anymore. Just take it. And so she's just erratically just throwing energy and anything that Agatha can grab, and basically you just see Wanda just desiccate, and she's turning corpse-like and everything, and it just gets to a point where Agatha just absorbs all of Wanda's power, and then she's like, oh well, now I'm going to use this to my bed, and then nothing. And that's where you find out that all the quote-unquote erratic
Energy
magic
blasts,
that Wanda was throwing was to actually create runes along the walls of the hex, which is just
So
brilliant.
good. I loved it.
And then Wanda's like, you don't need, don't tell me who or what I am, and then proceeds to take back all of her power and absorbs all of Agatha's
costume,
and then ends up with a great costume. It's like, this outfit, that's great. It was awesome.
Yeah. The costume's brilliant. So Agnes has been defeated, and she basically hexes her back into the Agatha character forever.
Yeah, that's really that seems so dark, isn't it? Like, that's
she's like, no, you can't.
I know she was the villain and stuff, but wow.
She's like, but you'll need help to
yeah.
like figure out your powers and stuff. And Wanda's like, yeah, well, I'll know exactly where you are if I need your help.
Yeah. It just sort of makes it. Yeah, that's. I don't know, man. That was mad, wasn't it? She just sat on the floor, like, hey, neighbor, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah. Harsh. Yeah, and then that's basically the end. Darcy fucks off, which smelt to me a little bit like that's a reshoot, and Darcy wasn't available to do the goodbyes.
I think that was probably something to do with coronavirus with Kat Dennings.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why she wasn't there. I don't
because
think she could
they were like,
travel or
"Oh,
something.
is Darcy not around?" And they're like, "Oh no, she doesn't really do goodbyes."
Yeah. I think there was
She
definitely
left.
something. It was definitely something to do with self-isolation or something.
Yeah.
Or she tested positive. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what it was, but
So
she's like, she's not there anymore.
is it?
So where we are now is what you got?
Is it there or is it the goodbye scene first? I can't remember.
So I think
So
she starts to bring everything back in, doesn't she?
So basically, they all meet. They're all to get back together in the middle of town square.
We're at acceptance now.
And and Wanda's like, well, Vision's like, I know you'll set everything right, just not for us. And so Wanda starts to pull in the walls of the hex, and the hex starts to, reduce in size, and you see everything kind of going back to the way that it was. And
as they're walking back to their house, isn't it? The hex is sort of collapsing behind them or something. I remember some scene like that as they're walking, and it's coming in behind them.
So Westview is returning.
So they get back to the house. And the house is the central point of the hex. So we're going to linger on that a little bit. Break hearts while you're doing it.
Yeah.
It's nighttime in the hex, and so they tuck the boys into bed, and we're very proud of you, and it's where you get the whole thing where it's like, thanks for choosing me to be your mom. And like,
chills.
And then the whole scene between Vision and Wanda, where I've been a voice with no body, a body but not human, and now a memory made real. Who knows what I'll be next?
Yeah,
and,
it was like, we've said goodbye to each other before, so this stands to reason that we'll say hello again.
We'll say hello again.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
and what's the thing about what I love that this show did is, like I was one of the people. I mean, I enjoyed Infinity War. I was at that point where I was starting to get burned out by Marvel films. I was starting to get burned out, and a lot of it, we can get into it later. It's just the DC versus Marvel, everything that was going on around that time. I thought, I liked Civil War, but I liked Batman versus Superman better. Don't at me. But I just thought there, just the saturation of characters. There were just, to me, it just felt like you got, and from conversations from the past and other episodes that, y'all have even talked about, it was just, there was a lot of characters during that hangar scene.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I just felt like it was an shiny type of thing, where it's like, even if you're, regardless of whether you're Team Cap or Team Iron Man, you may be Team Paul Rudd, you may be, Team Falcon, you may, it's just like, I like this character. We've been introduced to Black Panther, so we've got this new character. We've got, it's something. There is something for everybody in that scene where it's like,
but okay, then they do counteract all of that with fucking War Machine,
right? And it's like,
Rhodey,
yeah, exactly.
War Machine's great.
I don't like Rhodey.
Yeah, but I just felt like it was a lot, and I felt that it was one of those things where it's like, a lot of characters, but not a lot of characterization, and a lot of character development. And again, one of those things was, especially in the last two Avengers films, one of the things that we needed to care about was the relationship between Wanda and Vision. And again, we go into Infinity War and it's like, they're hiding in Switzerland or whatever, and they're having like a lovely night out, and then they get attacked, and then let's move the focus from them to the rest of the Avengers. Cap shows up behind a train and comes out of the shadows, and it's and it's like, okay, yeah, Cap's back. So we don't, and so when at the end of Infinity War, it's a very hard scene to watch, where Wanda is, has to destroy the Mind Stone. I have to be honest, when I was watching it, again, being a Whovian, I was like, the bad guy has the Time Stone. So you're wasting my emotions on something that's going to be rewound, and, yes, it's going to be even more detrimental, but it's like, I'm not as emotionally invested in this pairing as you want me to be for this scene to hit. This series, Niagara Falls, I was so like, you invested in these characters, and you got to see these characters. You got to feel, because one of the scenes in the previous episode where, Darcy's telling Vision, you may not be real, but the love that you two have for each other is. And they did a really good job establishing that. Yeah. So when you have that scene where, it's the two of them saying goodbye to each other, but not saying goodbye to each other, they did a really good job with it. I was crying. I felt it, and I even watching it a second time, I knew it was coming, and I still got affected by it, because
as it's going,
and so it's so yeah, a series like this definitely helps. I know, and that whole scene, it hit me the way that I feel the scene in Infinity War should have hit me, where it's like, you're making this sacrifice. This is the sacrifice that's being made. Like, this was the effect that I'm sure that they wanted, to have on, like, and I guess they did, but for someone like me, I'm like, why do I care? This is
your cold logic. Your cold logic.
Yeah.
He's got the time zone. It's going to rewind.
Yeah. I'm like, it's called storytelling and paying attention. They added this element for a reason. You don't introduce a gun in the first act and not expect it to be fired in the third.
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't pick up on it. I was watching Infinity War when he went and it went green. I went, oh no! Like, that's when it hit me. I should have picked it up on it earlier than that. But yeah. Oh well.
But no, you're right. This does work on a whole different level. I did well up. I was glad I was on my own while I did that. But yeah, powerful.
It was so good how they did that.
And then she brings the hex in. The house disappears. She's on her own. She puts her hood up and flies away.
Yeah, she
but she leaves her car.
Yes.
Yeah. She doesn't need it now.
I'm like, I hope that lease was paid off.
Also, like, you're an
flies
Avenger.
off,
You're an Avenger. Like, we've seen that Black Widow tools around and picks Tony Stark up in, like, a Maserati.
Yeah,
and Tony Stark is driving Audi e-trons. And, they're all driving. She's got, like, some, like, Lexus.
She's a secondary character.
She's
right.
Also, the nice toys.
Yeah. We need equal pay for all our superheroes.
That's it, mate.
Here's a used Ford Taurus, only has like 15,000 miles on it.
Maybe
it's good for.
She just doesn't give a shit.
I mean, it's red.
Who's
You
this
like
good
the
for?
color red,
Ant-Man.
right?
No, he's already got a transit. He doesn't need it.
But so then
that was something that stood out to me. I was just like, wait a minute, because part of me was like, wait. So after the house comes down, she's still in it. And then she goes back to the center of town. Does she fly off from there? I think she does. Wait, she was in a car when she showed up, right?
Yeah.
And I made a mental note just to be like, is the car still there? Yeah, the car's still there. And she just walks off. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's
now that car is going to be in this empty lot and just decrepit, and over years will be swarming with like bees nests and crap.
Like
and
100 tickets on it. But then, we go back into the cleanup operation where Sword is kind of all like the FBI is cleaning up after Sword. And Monica is asked into the movie theater to talk to an agent about something.
Who else thought it was going to be Nick?
Yeah, I thought he was going to show up, but it was an emissary of Nick's, wasn't it? It was a Skrull. And she's like, oh, by the way, a friend of your mother's wants to meet you.
Nick.
Up there.
And that is Nick, because that's where Nick is.
Exactly. Yeah, precisely.
But I thought we were going to see him as well, but never mind.
Yeah.
We didn't. But yeah, the second.
And then you've got basically it's the end of Incredible Hulk, isn't it? You got that scene going in through a house in the middle of some fields, and it's like, well, that's where Ed Norton is.
You're right.
Ed Norton's been there this whole time. Why are we seeing this house again?
Camera stops on him. He looks up and goes, Mark Ruffalo.
But no, it's Wanda. She's gone to the house that the Hulk went to in the middle of nowhere. He practiced his breathing. She's practicing astral projection. And while she's having a nice cup of cocoa on the porch, her astral plane self is reading the Darkhold. And then she hears the voices of her kids asking for help.
Yep.
Excuse me.
What?
Yeah.
So, because this is the thing, it's like being devil's advocate on the side of Hayward. Bear with me. He's trying to shoot the kids. They're not really kids. They are magical elements that have been dreamed up out of the imagination of a witch.
Yeah.
Who is one of the most powerful beings in the universe. And therefore, shooting and killing the kid is not shooting and killing a kid. It's shooting and killing an interdimensional weird magic that shouldn't even exist.
But do we know that those kids aren't like kids that lived in the town before that she's just using as her kids? I know we've seen them like magically grow up and stuff like that, but they could be real kids. With
they might have had a special signature from the Mind Stone as well, like Vision. And that's why he knows that they're not real kids, and that's why he's okay with killing them. I just think
still being able to unless they have I'll put an asterisk here, unless they have like shown like demonic abilities or things like that, pointing a gun at an entity who is projected as a child. Like no. I mean, it's like at the end of Deadpool 2, where it's just like, why don't I just go back in time and kill Hitler as a baby? And it's just like, he's a fucking baby. It's a fucking baby. You know what? I'll be back. I know a guy who loves killing babies.
This is that. This is the I don't know. It's that whole argument as well, isn't it? Like, can you just because you know what somebody might be capable of in the future, is it right to dispose of them now? I don't know, like Andrew being the reader, I listened to it on Audible. Institute, have you?
I've read that.
You've read Institute?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And it's that whole argument, isn't it, where they've got the precogs who...
Yeah.
So it's like, because that person might do something in the future doesn't mean they will. It's not inevitable. So that's what I was thinking, like with Hayward trying to stop Scarlet Witch and stuff like that. And like, you know, having read the comics or knowing the lore of the comics, we know what she can do and what she will do at some point. But, you know, we got to look at it in terms of where they are. Said, they don't know that's going to happen.
Playing devil's advocate, that was all I was doing. And also, he was only trying to get his equipment back.
Yeah, mate.
He was only after his toy. That's what Hayward was after. His intercontinental, like, world-destroying toy.
Yeah. Can't let a kid stand. Well, I think.
Well, again, looking back on it, and I started to go back and rewatch the series from the first episode. I only got like 15 minutes into it, and then stuff came up. But at that point, you know, I'd already watched the latter few episodes a couple times, and when you're introduced to Hayward's character after Monica comes back from the blip, there's a moment where, like, he feigns the, you know, I'm assistant director, and then Monica's like, no, you're the director, and it's like, okay, cool, like, you know, and that, like, going back and looking, you know, knowing what you know now and going back and looking at the series of events, things look a little different. And it's like, okay, was this his ploy the entire time? Because again, you know, his whole thing, as far as why they're trying to infiltrate the Hex, is not to save the town. It's the idea, Tom, to your point, that he's trying to retrieve his toy that supposedly Wanda had stolen.
But he knew.
But then you find out she.
Yeah, I think it's that he needed whatever was in that version of the Vision to power his version of the Vision.
Right. But he sold it. He sold the whole mission on the idea that, you know, she's got this, you know, this dangerous technology. She's got this dangerous entity. We need to get it back before she causes any more harm.
Oh, he's definitely a devious arsehole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dickwood. Indeed. I overall really enjoyed it. The only down note for me was the boner reference, but you know, whatever. I can let.
Well, they have pills for that, Tom.
Yeah, Nexus pills.
Yeah, I wasn't too bothered about the dick joke. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's Marvel. They do go for the cheap laughs. It seemed like out of place in WandaVision, I suppose, but it's kind of, it's fine, whatever. But, you know, my disappointment was that as it stands at the moment, like it not going the way we thought it would, where it would actually open the doors a lot more. I mean, in all honesty, the only way it's opened the doors, like, now we've got Scarlet Witch proper now, which is fine, which is good. But we also have the Darkhold, so we've got the sort of, it is opening up for Doctor Strange
the magical realms, isn't it? Basically,
yeah. But ultimately, that's all we got from it. Like, and the whole thing, like, it was a great story, it was a great watch, but that's the only thing we've got that leads on to other things. I think that's all I can tell so far. You know, it may be further down the line. Oh yeah, that because of WandaVision. Now we've got that. Well,
I think there's a slight reference to it in the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier, where Rhodey takes Sam to one side after he hands over the shield and is like, oh, we're not sure who our enemies are anymore. Like, our friends, our allies are our enemies. And like, I thought that might be a slight.
Yeah, because of Scarlet Witch. It may be what that may be.
Because that's the reports that's coming back.
Yeah, because that's sort of like
the military.
Doesn't the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier spans quite a little bit of time, doesn't it? So that particular conversation may have happened when the Hex was still up, sort of thing. But we don't know.
Yeah.
But
I think my fear is that, like, the WandaVision has set the bar so high in terms of storytelling that I'm a little bit like, can any of the, like, I think the Falcon Winter Soldier show is going to be a lot more kind of Mission Impossible-y.
Yes,
So it's
I think it's
totally
definitely
different thing, but I don't think it's going to have the same heft. I can't see it having the same weight of like storytelling.
No, they started with a bang, but I think because it's a sort of different genre, isn't it? Falcon Winter Soldier,
that's what I was going to say.
Very different feel to it.
WandaVision, you could go the WTF territory and pull out like all the stops, because essentially you have two characters who, when you put it on paper is kind of it's a very ridiculous, a very hard to tap into sort of, how do we develop these characters? Let's put them in a ridiculous situation and build them from there. Talking to people who have tried watching the show, it's a good thing that all the episodes are out now, and that, like the conversation that we had before, it's a good thing that they had the first two episodes back to back. That way you can get an idea. It's just like, there is a point to this, as opposed to it just being, it's just a weird sitcom with a weird thing that happens toward the end of the first episode, and then the weirdness continues throughout the next episode. It's kind of like when you're trying to, I know back before in Infinity War, it was like, well, how are you going to connect the Guardians of the Galaxy to the rest of the, you'll just bring Thor in, because he's connected to those, you have a connecting thing. WandaVision, to connect those characters and to try to drive a little bit more story into the rest of the MCU, you needed to go that just zany route. Whereas Falcon and Winter Soldier, Falcon's a human being, Winter Soldier is human modified, so it can be a little bit more grounded. I totally understand where you're coming from, Tom. As far as like, it set the bar really high, but Ant, to your point, they're two separate genres. So it's like, the bar will be set differently depending on your own taste. If you like the MI stuff, and so so me, like, I absolutely loved WandaVision because I like the storytelling nature of it. I like the WTF nature of it. I like it's weird but brilliantly so. I like a show that keeps me, on my toes, where it's like, sometimes I watch shows, and I've watched so much TV in my life, that you could get to a point where you're watching a show you've never seen before, and you can guess what the next line is going to be. And that gets boring. And so, I like a show that, again, the conversation that we had before, here we've got all these speculations, turned out big red X.
None of us
and not the X, and not the X that we were looking for. But and even then, it's like, I'm fine with it, because to go off on a tangent there, but I after watching the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm like, okay, this could seem. I mean, it's a little darker.
The body count already is off the chart. So many people died in that opening scene.
yeah.
Which, by the way, that opening scene, fantastic. But like we say, that's a conversation for another episode.
Another day.
But we definitely will have that conversation.
But no, really, really enjoyed it, and it's been fun recapping it as well. And
I think WandaVision just held up throughout, and I was happy with how it ended. Yeah. Parts of you are like, shit, it didn't kind of do what we wanted it to do, but we don't know what it's done yet, because we need to wait and see
how it unfolds down the line,
what happens because of it. But it was a great story,
and that's something else. We have WandaVision as a series has quote unquote come to a close. I know they're talking about possibly doing a season 2, but
really?
I just leave it at season 1, like what they did with the Watchmen series. Just leave it at the one season. You get what you need out of it, and why do that?
The story's been told.
Yeah, the story's been told, and it leads into the rest of it's going to be told in Doctor Strange. So, but and any like big events are going to take place in the movies. So what do you need another WandaVision series for. But anytime I defend a TV series like Doctor Who or Orphan Black or any series, anything where it's a continual story that's being told, I look at it like a book. And a lot of people have a lot of whenever people complain about, oh well, this story wasn't tied up or we weren't given blah blah blah, and it's like the story's still being told. You're only 2 chapters into this 50 chapter book. So either you stick with the story or you just give up the book altogether. You're not going to be told everything within the first 3 or 4 chapters. You're going to be given something. But then what is the rest of the book for? And we have yet to like really 15 some odd films, we have still yet to really tap into what the rest of this universe holds for as long as it holds.
Exactly.
It's great. It's exciting. I'm looking forward to all of it.
Yeah,
I am. But I think we've wrapped that up quite well, haven't we?
We've probably spoken for over 4.5 hours across both episodes.
Yeah. But it's good. I mean, I think that just goes to show how good it is, the fact that we can talk about it for so much. Definitely. There's probably still loads more to say about it as well on subsequent viewings. But
it sounds like it's definitely worth going back and watching it again from what Andrew's saying.
Just to pick up how clever they were, like with the foreshadowing. Oh yeah,
I mean, I meant to go again. I meant to go back and rewatch the episodes just to see how many times like either the story nudged or the characters nudged, like, hey, like Agatha or Agnes is Agatha all along. I mean, even from the first time, I messaged you guys, I started watching that first episode, and from the moment, knowing what you know now, it's like it's a whole Sixth Sense thing. It's like, why isn't Crow's wife talking to him? Oh, because she can't see him. She's not just being a bitch. When you first meet Agnes, she makes the comment. She's like, "Oh, I'm your neighbor from next door. I was out of town when you moved in." And it's like, well, that should have, put up a red flag because
you couldn't have been out of town. Yeah.
And then rewatching the episodes last night, I did notice, that during the Malcolm in the Middle opening scene, that title sequence, you have a quick shot on Agnes's butt, and the back of her sweatpants has naughty sequined in. So it's like, and then just that Halloween episode, she's dressed as a witch. Yeah. So it's like,
fantastic.
What other fun details did they put in?
There will be loads.
So go back, rewatch it.
Let us know.
Come out with a third, Spoilercast episode of all the stuff that we missed.
All the stuff we were too stupid to have seen.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's been really good fun.
Yeah.
Going over it for the last couple of episodes, and
Thank you for the crib notes as well. Like, they're brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're really helpful. Sort of weird. Taking notes helps. Weird. Helps structure things.
Well, it's also nice to know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, I watched these episodes, but at a certain point, it's like, oh, they're all blurred together. Did this happen there? No, this happened there.
Time. Yeah. But no, it was good. We appreciate you coming on. And I'm sure Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Maybe, although maybe there won't be as much to dissect.
I swear to God, if Doctor Strange doesn't show up in Falcon and Winter Soldier,
it's not
riot at dawn.
I don't think it's going to be as intriguing. That's all I'm saying.
I don't either. No, I don't think there's going to. It's not going to be as much speculation and stuff because this was all like what the hell was going on. It was mystery, whereas Falcon and Winter Soldier is not really going to be mystery. I don't think so. There's not much to talk about. I don't think.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens. It may come out that Doctor Strange it was Doctor Strange all along. I don't know. But I think we'll call it because I think there's quite a while this one's been going on, hasn't it? So I think we'll have to call it here. And I don't know for this.
Thank you so much for coming on, Andrew. And
thanks for having me. This has been fun.
For this episode, I've been Tom.
I've been Ant.
I've been Andrew. Or have I been?
Bye.